This podcast is part of the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network, the network for first responders and those who support them.
Disclaimer. All views expressed on What Makes Us Fire are solely those of the person or persons giving them. What Makes Us Fire does not represent or claim to represent any particular city or fire department, and therefore make the claim that all views and standpoints are affiliated with What Makes Us Fire and with What Makes Us Fire only. Any mention of certain fire departments or cities within the interviews are solely for informational and opinion-based dialogue. In short, if you have a problem with what's published, just say something about it and don't be a Richard.
What's up, What Makes Us Fire family? I'm Josh, your host of the What Makes Us Fire podcast, founder of the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping our civil service members, be it military or first responder, active retired veteran, and our volunteers get and receive inpatient mental health treatment. We do that by bridging the gap that is the financial aspect of going and receiving that treatment. Too often, a civil service member has to make the choice between going and helping their mental health and taking a hit on their finances, or continuing their finances not only for themselves but for their families and taking a hit on their mental health. What Makes Us Fire wants to put a stop to that. If you'd like to help us out, please visit whatmakesusfire.com, make your donation, purchase some gear. All of the above help us grow and get the podcast and our word out. I want to thank the Spagnoletti Law Firm for being a sponsor of the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit foundation and for being the legal counsel if you're in the Houston area, really anywhere in the USA, and looking for some legal help, reach out to the Spagnoletti Law Firm here in Houston, Texas. A big shout out to the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network, a podcast network that hosts and premieres podcasts that are created by, produced by, and run by civil service members like myself. Check out the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network. Want to say something before we get into this about my next guest. You want to talk about tenacious. You want to talk about being headstrong and wanting to get better for yourself. You want to talk about hitting rock bottom and then not allowing it to defeat you. That's my next guest. Her name's Lo. She's a female firefighter, but anything you put in front of a firefighter really doesn't matter as long as you can do the job. So she's a firefighter. She's a friend. And she's a mental health advocate, especially when it comes to addiction. She had her battles. She lost her way in finding out who she was at one point if she didn't have the job. Too often, a lot of us kind of put our self-worth into a job or into a thing or into a person. And this story kind of shows you how it can have an effect on you. The job was her. She was the job. She lost herself. But then she found it again. What Makes Us Fire family, this is my friend Lo. I hope you enjoy her story. I hope you learn from it. Right now, everything you say can and will be used against you. Anyway, do you want to go by Lo, Lauren?
I usually go by Lo.
Lo? Okay, that works for me. I'm gonna.
Or as my captain said, "Damn it, Lo."
Damn it, Lo. I love these kind of conversations where I have guests on that I haven't had a whole lot of contact with prior to having you on the show, because I'm getting to know you, like raw. I'm getting to know you. I didn't send you questions. We don't have this rapport where we could just tell stories that,
Right.
It's raw. I'm actually going to get to know you. Heads up though, I do like to pry a little bit. I like to pry. And if I cross the line, it's not because I'm meaning to. I like to get the backstory and the emotions and the feelings from certain events that happened and everything else. You know what we're about, right?
Yes.
All right. So we're very.
I tried to make it to a couple of you guys' events, but then I kept getting deployed, and I couldn't make it. And my husband was laughing because I was like, I can do this one, and then I would get a phone call and be like, and I'm going back out in the woods.
Right. So you were okay. So I don't know if you know Lauren Fire 2232. So she is now can be considered a wildland firefighter, because before then you guys were just forestry technicians, and it wasn't until recently that you guys got the title wildland firefighters. Right. So I used to give her shit all the time. She's like, no, I'm a wildland firefighter. I'm like, no, you're not. You're a forestry technician.
So we love to pick on people. I go out with a REMS crew. So I do high angle, low angle specialty rescue, and I'm a paramedic on the crew. And so everybody gives us shit because we sit around. I mean, when we deploy, we train an hour in the morning, we do PT, and then we spend 2 hours training on our ropes and rescue techniques and practicing with each other. Well, after that, there's not much to do. So we usually set up our hammocks and we sit around and just wait, right? Because they want us bored. If we're having a super fun day, they're having a really bad day.
Bad day, exactly. It's a great thing about standby rescue.
Yep. So we make a lot of money to camp and train, basically. And it's funny because everybody's like, "Oh, you're a wildland firefighter. You go out, you fight fire. You're on the line." I'm like, "Oh, no, I don't do that. I don't do any of that."
Just like a regular fire department, there's different positions within that service, within the fire service, right? Like I'm promoted to driver operator, chauffeur, whatever, around the world, they call it a whole bunch of different things. And I make sure that I get the guys to the call safely, get them home safely, pump the truck, make sure all the tools are working correctly. If they need anything, and make sure, they get it, make sure they're getting the right water at the right pressure, if they need foam, all that other stuff. So that's my job. I don't actually get to suit up and go into the fire anymore because I promoted. You have your firefighters, you have your probationary firefighters, you have your lieutenants, your captains, your chiefs, and all that other stuff. So there's a bunch of different, and even on the fire scene, we break it down to RIT crew, primary attack, primary search, ventilation. So everybody has their own designation, and it's the same thing within the Wildland Fire Service. You guys are the RIT team, right? You guys are the rapid intervention team, the rescue intervention team. So if you guys are working, that means somebody's having a really bad fucking day.
It is. And what's really funny is, so I do both. When I'm home, I'm a structure firefighter. I have my DO as well. I also have my paramedic. So some days I'll be the reserve driver, and my job is to, if it's not a medical, I stand outside, I pump, make sure everything's going good. And some days I have a driver, so then I ride officer. And I get to go into fires and play. So my role is always dynamic at my station, depending upon, we're a smaller station. So it depends on what our needs are. And I'm also a training officer. So I do state hazmat classes. I teach our Pro Bs. I do Fire 1 instruction, EMT class instruction. So it depends on what hat I'm wearing on what day. But on the fire line, I always feel bad because we show up and we have the coolest toys. We've got, the awesome Polaris with, the Bluetooth music, and it's fully enclosed. And I mean, we're kind of the princesses. We have GPS capability to where we can text back home to our loved ones. We have Athena EKG monitors to where they're Bluetooth. They're about this big. I mean, they're amazing. So we don't carry the big,
Zoll monitors or anything
Zolls or life packs. We have these super small 12 lead capable, amazing pieces of equipment that I wish all of our departments in town could get because they're lighter, they're easier. So we show up with all of this high speed equipment, and we're considered, somebody on a fire last year who is former military likened us to like the special ops of wildland medicine, because we have to be able to do helicopter evacuation. We have to be able to get them out with UTV, or we have to do basket, or quick extrication. We actually have to do vehicle extrication, but we don't get pneumatic tools.
Right.
All of our vehicle extrication tools they're heavy, they're cumbersome, and they require muscle. So our training is definitely hard. And every year we do 2 weeks in the woods, and we treat it as an incident, and we come out battered and bruised, but it's so that way when we do go in, like everything runs smooth, and it's really nice because wearing the different hats between wildland and structure, you see a lot of the jockeying between wildland firefighters and structure firefighters, like, oh, you're not a real firefighter if you don't do this, or you're not a real firefighter if you don't do that. Well, I live in both worlds. So I have massive respect for everybody.
I'm the same way. Believe it or not, I actually am wildland certified as well. I am with Texas State Area Forestry Fire Service. Basically, if there's wildland fire, they can deploy a few of the guys from my department out to help out, and we have our own wildland unit and everything else. And then of course I'm doing structural collapse, and I'm part of the USAR team, so like I said, I had to get this interview in because starting on Monday, I'm going for my structural collapse 3, which is exterior shoring. I want to get to that structural collapse 5 class because that's the like James Bond breaking and breaching.
I've heard
and all
that
that
class
other
is
stuff.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, you get to hang from ropes and break through walls and yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for that.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome.
I have all that confined space. I'm very rope rescue savvy. That's one of the few skills that I'm very confident in when it comes to, if I had to teach it. I do have my instructor, I got my officer. So yeah, I get and I understand that whole dynamic, but it's still fun giving forestry technicians, wildland firefighters shit every now and then.
I love to give them crap too. It's so funny when we have our new guys, and I love how passionate they are. They get their RT 130, they've got their S130 190. They finally get their pack test, and they're like, I want to deploy. And I'm like, you're going out on a truck to dig a lot of line, and they're like, yeah. I'm like,
buddy. You're gonna be like, yeah, and then 2 days in, you're gonna be like, what the fuck did I sign up for?
I know. I always feel so bad. And they're so excited, and you don't want to kill their joy, but at the same time, you just want to pat them on the head and be like, I'll talk to you when you get back.
Yeah. This is why you want to promote within the fire service as quickly as possible. Yes. Because you don't want to be that grunt for as long as possible. Anyway, Lo, we went off on a huge tangent before. So I usually have a little bit. I don't know. That's okay. So I love rabbit holes. I love going off on little rabbit trails, because we learn a little bit more about the individual we're talking to and what they're excited about, what they're passionate about. And so I always try to bring us back, and I don't try to cut people off, but
I gotcha.
We're going too far off the rabbit trail, we're going to have to try to guide us back. I do have a little bit of a structure to the show in that I start off the show with letting everybody know how I found you and invited you on the show. And like most of my guests, social media. It is what it is. A lot of my social media contacts tend to be more open to coming on the show and sharing their experiences and their stories because they're already doing it on a platform with thousands of people watching. So why not come on a podcast where, tens of thousands more can listen to your story and hear your point of view on things? The point is to get as many different point of views on certain subjects as possible, because not everybody's going to have the same point of view. Not everybody's going to be, your way of working through things might work for you, might work for somebody else, but might not work for somebody else. But another guest might say something and they'll be like, the way Lo did it didn't really work for me, but the way this person did it works for me great. Right. So the more perspectives and ideas and backstories that I can get onto the show, the better. More people can learn from them. So I obviously I found you on social media. You're the third female firefighter I've had on the show. And for me, it's easier to get men on the show talking about what we do. We're very mental health forward, but I like to get all perspectives because mental health is not a gender specific thing. It's a human thing. And while I do understand, and I'm not ignorant to the fact that, mental health works differently within the male and female brains just because we're made chemically different and physically different. And, the what's the word I'm looking for? Hormones, excuse me. Thank you. The hormones are different within the male and female, just being male and female. Hormones are different, and the way they affect the brain are different and everything else. But I found you on social media, and I think you jumped into one of my lives once, and you said hi and something like that. And so I clicked on your picture, and whenever I'm in the live, I like to click on that profile, especially if it's somebody new, see if I can see their real name, because I don't like just calling them by their screen name. But then I saw, firefighter, paramedic, NPC fitness, or N something C's fitness. NPC. Yeah. NPC fitness. And I was just like, firefighter, paramedic. Oh, okay, perfect. And so I reached out to you. And, a lot of people have been asking me like, I would love to be on your show, but I don't have that many followers. I'd love to be on your show, but I'm not like the Great Londini or Salty Ralty or having these hundreds of thousands of followers. And I'm like, I don't care how many followers you have. If you're willing to share your story and you're not just looking for some type of notoriety to do it, because I've had people, I got to be very careful. Some people are like, I have a story, you have to hear it. Like, I want to be on your podcast because this story. And I'm like, let's talk first. Right. And if I reach out to somebody else and I'm like, hey, I would love to share you to share your story. And they're like, yeah, that sounds cool. Let's work on it. Then I'm like, all right. Yeah. They have something to say. They have something to say, and they're not too ready to say it. So you were very receptive.
I've been doing a lot of mental health work with PTSD for first responders and firefighters. I also do a lot of volunteering with relapse prevention for drugs and alcohol for first responders and military, because I've been there. I almost lost my career. And my husband and I both, we had different paths to it. But both of us almost ended up being statistics. And I lost a really good friend of mine last year to suicide. And he was doing all the right things. He was reaching out. He was, a firefighter with me at my department. Really awesome guy. It was a huge loss. And, I started just paying attention to, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing at our department? What are we doing in my city? How are we treating these people? And honestly, how we had been treating them was, oh, thank you for coming forward. Now we're gonna get you the help you need, but we're gonna put you on an LOA, and nobody at the station is allowed to talk to you.
Ouch.
So we're going to take away, and that's exactly what happened to me. So they legitimately took me from my care network, my partner, who, thank God, I can't even tell you how many times my partner had talked me off a ledge or been there for me. And, and what they did is they said, oh, it's not punishment. We're not punishing you for reaching out because you need help, but we're going to give you time and space. And they call it time and space. But what they do is they give you LOA, and then they make you go see these. And this is pretty much a Colorado thing, from what I understand. They make you go to this company in Denver, and you have to have an initial assessment to see if you're fit for duty. Mm-hmm. Nobody who has ever gone to this company has returned back to the line. 100% failure rate. So, and I did some digging after my incident, because I thought, we're doing this wrong. We're losing people. So what are we doing wrong? And I've always been the sort of person that says, don't just look at the problem. Don't go to somebody with a problem, come with solutions, come with ideas. Right. So that's what I spent a year and a half focusing on. How do we make this better? Like, how do we improve not just my station, but stations in general? How do we improve reaching out for our brothers and sisters? Because it's not just a military problem. It's not just fire. It's not just police, but we do see it systematically throughout all of those. Right. And some of my best friends are police officers that I work side by side with. And I have massive respect for anybody who served in any capacity as a servant, whether it's military, fire, police. And so once they cut you off from the station and put you on LOA and send you to this place that you're never going to come back from, you have to do these mandatory counseling sessions at a place of their choice. So you don't get to pick your own counselor.
At a place of their choice.
At a place of their choice. Okay. And if at any time you don't follow what the station tells you to do, and it's your performance plan, if at any time you don't follow what they tell you to do, then you are refusing to follow the performance plan, and you will be terminated.
Yeah, wow.
But yet the whole time they're telling you that none of this is punitive.
Yeah, that's okay. So obviously some reform needs to be made. And I've had a bunch of conversations with a bunch of different people on how that looks and what we can do to make that better. First things first. One, there is no one general plan for any one specific person battling with depression, anxiety, or PTSD or addiction. That's the thing about mental health. Mental health is not a broken arm. A broken arm, you go to the hospital, they set it, they fix it, you might get surgery, you cast it up, and then you go to rehab and you're back on the line, right?
Right.
If me and you had the same broken arm, same spot, we can generally be back at work about the same time.
Thing with mental health is, if you and I are battling depression, the way you handle your depression and how you deal with it and how you heal from it can be completely different the way I need to, because our brain chemicals do not work the same.
Exactly.
And, different therapies, different medications, stuff like that. So you cannot generalize mental health treatment. And if you do that, you're going to have a failure rate, because not one specific plan is going to work for everyone. It's not.
Right. And the different, so, and everybody suffers from different things. Mine wasn't so much depression. Mine was a toxic leadership environment. And I was crumbling under the pressure of trying to perform. And there was always carrot dangling. If you do this, you'll be rewarded with this. If you do this, you'll be rewarded with this. So I was doing everything that they asked me to do, hours at the station out of my free time, volunteering, being very active in the academy, doing everything I could. And then I was watching a lot of hard work, a lot of original hard work and platforms be taken credit for by other people. And when I would speak up about it, I was penalized.
Right.
So my story wasn't so much calls or bad experiences. It was a toxic environment. Mm-hmm. And I was not prepared with how to deal with that, because I teach this really great mental health awareness toxic leadership course where I say, not only can we recognize the toxic leadership that we're dealing with, but how can we look at our own behavior, and are we the toxic leader? Are we perpetuating it? Because as I started going through and really getting counseling and stepping away from the station that I was at, and I did get terminated. And honestly, it was the best thing that happened to me. I'm not even going to lie. Thank God, because honestly, I got healthier and was finally able to heal and realize that what I was going through was not normal, not acceptable, and it's not part of the job.
Right.
And it should never be part of the job. And I think that a lot of new firefighters, or even firefighters that have been there for 10 years, if that's what you're used to and you're always told this is the job, grow thick skin, you don't know that it's not supposed to be like that.
Right. And you made a very, very, very good point, that it wasn't until after you were terminated that you realized, wow, that's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Because when we're going through it, we feel like I can't lose this. This is part of who I am. And it creates this stress and this anxiety and this constant turmoil in our brains that I better do this right, because this is a part of my life I can't lose. Or you feel like you can't lose.
Right.
Because this sense of worth within what we do. And there's a sense of worth in what we do. But what we fail to recognize is that sense of worth is defined by ourselves, and we don't realize that until it's gone. And then we wait, I'm still okay. I'm actually doing better. Like, I thought if I lost this, I would be horrible. I'd be in the dumps. And now we're finding out I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm smiling when I wake up in the morning now. Like, what's going on here? Right. It's this weird concept, because when we're in the thick of the stress, that's what it is. It's de-stress. We can't see past it. It becomes the life we're living, becomes who we are. We give it this definition of this is our life, and it doesn't allow us to think logically when it comes to our own self-worth, our happiness, our sanity, and everything else. It's this crazy idea that you don't realize until you lose the thing that you think you have to keep, or this thing that is constantly there. And you're like, well, if it's constantly there, it always has to be there. No, it doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't.
And it's kind of amazing because, like I say, being terminated from there was the best thing. For me, it was devastating. I've always been a type A super achiever. If it were Harry Potter, I'm Hermione. You give me a task, and, my captain always called me his little pit bull, because if he gave me a task, I was on it until it was done, and it started very early on in my career. I'm 5'4". When I started as a firefighter, I weighed 115 pounds. So everything's heavy. And I had a very great firefighter who was awesome. He went on to a different station, and he's now like head of an academy. And I still call him for help occasionally. He told me, he said, I need you to get in the gym and put on weight, not because you can't do the job. He said, but because you're going to get broken. He said, so we're going to get you healthy. We're going to get you bigger. And he said, because I want you in this for the long run. That was a healthy way to attack a problem. You know, I'm doing this to protect you. And I ended up putting on 20 pounds of muscle, started competing in NPC competitions because I like to win stuff. You know, I mean, if I'm going to be eating all the things and going to the gym 5 days a week, yes, I do it so that I can be a fit firefighter. I'm openly honest. I'm 44 years old. There are not many women at 50 years old that are on an engine, still doing the thing every day. My goal is to make it to 50. And on my 50th birthday, I told them, I said, I am not driving. I am going interior on whatever we have, and I'm going to have fun, because my goal has always been, I want to make it to 50, and I want to be the firefighter that I didn't have as a younger female firefighter. I didn't have any older women to look up to. They just weren't there. And he took, you know, motivating me to get in the gym and saying, hey, maybe bodybuilding's for you. You were a competitive cheerleader your whole life. Like, you can win stuff. And I was like, ooh, I can win stuff. And I've stuck with it now for 5 years. And so this year, even with Wildland, even being deployed, and my poor team, I tortured them. We did so much calisthenics and TRX straps and got creative with pull-ups and axes. I made them PT with me every day. I came back from a fire and had 10 days to prep, and I won the state championship.
Oh, hell yeah.
So it was, you know, and I love that my team, I'm surrounded by really healthy people now, that when I tell them, hey, I do this not because I want to be like a model or anything like that. No, it's because everything's heavy at this station. When you're 5'4" and I only weigh 133 pounds. Well, when I have my gear on and I'm carrying saws and med bags and everything else, I'm carrying my body weight.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, it's, do you want to be an asset or a liability? You know, and everybody always says, and I love this, oh, can you drag me out of a fire? Like, yes, but why should I have to? You should be in the gym with me.
That's true. And I do have to say this, that that is a very true statement. The shit shouldn't have to hit the fan for you to find out whether or not I can do what needs to be done. You should be doing your due diligence to make sure the shit doesn't hit the fan.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. I think when it comes to your peers within the service, at least my point of view, I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't care if you're a man, woman. I don't care if you're gay, straight, black, green, yellow, Chinese, purple, Asian. Doesn't matter. I don't care if you're trans. I don't care if you're gay. I don't give a fuck. Because when the shit hits the fan, I want to know that you can do the job just as well as I can, if not better. Yep. Because my life is going to depend on you if the shit hits the fan. Because things happen in the job, whether or not I've been training my entire life and I'm in the best shape in the world and I know what to do, the shit hits the fan from time to time, and all the training in the world still is going to rely on your fellow brothers and sisters on the fire ground to get your ass out of there. So absolutely. If something were to happen, I don't give a shit who you are. Can you do the job? That's all that matters. Can you do the fucking job? Can you do the job? And can you do it well? Can I trust you to do the job well? I don't care that you're 5'4". I don't care that you're 135 pounds. I don't care that you can fucking pull 7,000 pounds with your teeth. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Can you do the job well? And if the shit hits the fan, God forbid, can I count on you to do what needs to be done to save my ass? Because I'm going to do what I can do to save yours. That's all that matters.
And what's really neat is I always, especially when I'm teaching academy, because some of our guys are my size, you know, so I tell them, I'm like, I'm going to teach you different ways to do this, because with my size, I've had to get creative. We've had some big guys. One of my favorite partners I ever had was huge. He was 6'4", 300 pounds without gear. Jesus and for funsies, Christ. I would go into the bay, and it was part of our workout, and he would let me do this, and God love him, he was so supportive. He'd put on his bunker gear, I'd get webbing out, and I would practice different ways that I could rig my webbing, and I would drag him around the bay. And that was part of my workout. And, you know, and everybody's like, why do you do that? I'm like, well, he's the biggest guy. He's also my partner. So if I go into a fire, that's the one I'm dragging out. Right. So I've got to be able to get him out. And we used to joke around because, you know, we'd watch all the YouTube videos and he'd always be like, hey, I saw something, let's try it. And what I loved about him is he would always present it in a, if you can do it low, we can teach this to anybody, you know? And he's like, because you're the smallest we have. And I would say, okay, let's do it. And we would spend so much time taking whatever YouTube video we saw, because there are some great, great techniques out there on YouTube. There's also shitty ones, but there's some really good ones. And we would adapt it to whatever I needed to do to make it work. And I think that's, if we had more of that support, more of that teamwork, when it comes to, if you're struggling with something at the station, if you've got a support system like that, where it's more of a learning, I'm going to help you learn, or let's work on this together to figure out how we can do this better. You end up feeling more at peace, and you feel more comfortable saying, hey guys, I'm struggling with this, or that's not my forte, or, maybe you should send somebody else to do this because they're going to be better at it, and I think being able to be open and honest with your abilities, with your crew, makes you more cohesive. The crew I work with now, it's funny, we do REMs. I don't like heights. Straight up.
For being a firefighter that has to get up on a ladder, that's or on top of a roof.
And that's true, because the first time I had to do that in fire academy, I cried. And I was completely humiliated at myself for crying. But I remember, being as stubborn as I was, I got down to the base of the ladder, and one of our instructors looked at me and he said, "Are you crying?" And I wiped my tears, and I looked at him and I said, "You can't fail me for crying. It's not on the sheet." And I walked off. I did everything I was asked to do, and I did it to the letter, but I cried. And it became a joke. And every time I see him, he's like, "Do you still cry on ladders?" I'm like, "It depends." Depends what's going on. I might. But what's neat is, with my crew, overcoming that, because they know I'm not a huge fan of heights, and that's what we do. We spent a good day and a half just getting me acclimated to trusting them. And so now they can dangle me off a cliff, and I trust my equipment and I trust my team. I'm not so much worried about heights anymore. But what's hysterical is, because of my size, there are a lot of big dudes on my team. One of them we call Sasquatch, because he is a Sasquatch. And I love confined space. It doesn't bother me. I am a tunnel rat. Him, not so much. He'll always be like, "So low, I'll go dangle off the ladder if you go crawl in this hole." And I'm like, that's teamwork.
Well, you hit on something that makes a lot of sense. And after I say this, we're gonna change subjects just a little bit. Okay. But you did hit on something that makes a lot of sense that I think needs to be pointed out. You said the cohesiveness actually relied a lot on communication, and in so many words. And that communication is not being afraid to speak your mind, or not being afraid to speak what is going on, how you feel about a certain situation, and then relying on the fact that your crew, your brothers and sisters, are going to be receptive to that and not judge you for it. Right. It's, I think all of that, the biggest thing that needs to happen within the civil service realm in general really is the mindset, right? The mindset needs to start changing a little bit. It's not this, "Hey, I have an issue with it." Well, if you have an issue with this, maybe you shouldn't be doing the job. No, that's the wrong mindset. The mindset should be, "Hey, I have an issue with this. I know I can do it. I just don't know if I can do it the way you guys are doing it. Can we talk about maybe learning different ways to do it?" Like pulling a hose line. If I gave you a 2-inch hose line charged with a smooth bore on it, and I'm telling you, "Hey, walk it up and get me exposure cover on the Charlie side," I should be able to say, I should be able to trust that you can do that.
Right.
You might have a little bit of trouble because it's heavy, but if you found a way to make it happen, as long as it gets done and safely and in a timely manner, it doesn't really matter how you do it. A big Sasquatch can probably put it over his shoulder and just fucking skull drag it to the Charlie side. You might have to put some webbing on it, put it around your shoulders and drag it that way, but you got the job done. Right. And there's no right or wrong way. There's maybe some quicker ways, sure, but there's no right or wrong way as long as it's getting done as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. And I think that gets lost within the fire service a lot, because there's always, well, this way's better. Well, this way's better. Well, this way's better. And it's like, no, not necessarily. It might be a little bit better for you. It might work a little bit quicker for you, but go ahead, put some webbing on it and pull it. I'm going to put it over my shoulder and skull drag it. Let's see who gets there first. Oh, we got there at the same time. So which one's right or wrong?
And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's being open and receptive. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've found has been the biggest struggle for any kind of change for anything in the fire department, because it's, well, that's the way we've always done it. Okay.
Tradition is a beast in its own. It can be, there is a place for tradition. I'm not trying to get rid of tradition at all, but there is also a place where you can keep tradition and modify with the times.
Right.
And you just have to be open to that. Anyway, I'm gonna switch conversation. We went on this huge thing, and I freaking love it, because usually this part of the conversation usually happens a little bit later on in the episode. But whatever. I love it because I can hear your passion. I can hear how I can feel how passionate you are about it when you talk about it, and it's fucking amazing. I love people like you within the service that are trying to get people aware of some of the issues and the change that can happen, and positive change. And all it is just changing a mindset. That's all you have to do, just change a mindset. And look at what we can do. And I freaking love that. But
and make it acceptable.
Exactly.
Give them a safe place. I think the biggest hurdles I've run into over the past year, luckily the station I'm at now, they're very receptive to when I have the talk with our volunteers or our new academy members, and I'm like, look, if you're having issues with anything, I'm a safe place. If I don't know the answer, I'll go through hell and high water to find you the answer you need. Like we will get there together, and I will never judge you. And I'm very open about my process through the whole thing. And my husband is actually very open about what happened to him. And I can't tell you how many times I've been told, you need to not be so honest about what happened. And I said, no, I think I need to be very honest about what happened, because I was almost a statistic. My name was almost on a frickin' wall with a cute little flag. And I said, and I had survivor's guilt after my buddy Ethan died. And I have a memorial scholarship for him, which is like the biggest thing I'm working on right now. But I thought, if I can do one thing to make it worth me surviving through all of that hell and coming out on the other side, not let anybody else go through it alone. And anytime anybody tells me, well, you need to be quiet and not talk about it, that's exactly when I need to be talking about it. Because I think if it would have been more socially acceptable to talk about it, I don't think I would have gone as far as I did. I think I would have actually opened up.
Right. And the thing is when people that say that don't actually realize that your process for your healing and for you sharing your story is your process. End of story. It's yours.
Right. And I'm not saying I'm better than anybody.
No.
And I'm lucky and I'm grateful, and how I got through it is how I do it. There are other people who have handled it different ways. But I figure if each person talks about their story and their journey and how they went through it, because all of us are different. If we reach one person,
that's all that matters.
That's a win. That's all that matters.
That's exactly
one person. That's all we need to do.
I'm going to switch up the conversation a little bit, and we will get back to this topic, because it will, trust me, it will roll back into this. I like to get a little bit of a history of you, where you came from, how you grew up, and everything else. And the reason why I like to do that is a lot of people look at the civil service members and they look at us as firefighters, cops, military servicemen and women, and they're like, wow, like you guys are these type of people. And while generally that might be true, it doesn't change the fact that we were human beings before we even put on the uniform or a badge, right? And that being a human gets tied into what we do. So I like getting a little bit of a history of who I have, because when you take a certain individual, their background, the way they grew up, the experiences they had prior to even going into the job, it shows that we are just as diverse within the civil service realm as in the general public. There's just something about us that allows us to do an abnormal job. We're normal people doing an abnormal job because we choose to do it. So take us back. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What was family life like for you? Take me from little Lo up to about where Lo is now.
So I grew up, my parents divorced when I was 1. So I grew up in a split household. My mom lived in South Florida and my dad lived in Columbus, Georgia. And so I split my time between the two. Winters were in Florida at the beach, hanging out with friends. And growing up, I was a complete dork, like big time gaming geek, loved computers, Dungeons and Dragons, all the cool things. Summers were spent
all the cool things.
All the cool things. I was such a dork. And I was so big into science fair, like science fair and spelling bees and knowledge bowls. Those were my jam. Like I did not win any popularity contests in school. That being said, I think I was a member of every group though. So I didn't ever get bullied or picked on. I just wasn't popular. When I lived in Georgia, I moved to Georgia to live with my dad when I was in high school. So I went from this super massive science high school in Florida that I got bussed into. I mean, I took anatomy and physiology as a freshman. Microbiology used to be my thing. And then I went to, so I ended up moving to Alabama, Columbus, Georgia, Alabama area. And it was a rural county school. And the highest science class they offered in the school was Chemistry 1. So I had a lot of really sham classes to take. And I got into ROTC and rifle shooting and pistol competitions that my dad took me to. I did 4-H dairy judging, even though I did not grow up on a farm. Actually won national awards for that. Competed in cheerleading and lived my best life. I mean, I lettered in like 5 or 6 sports and did powerlifting because I was a cheerleader and some of the girls were heavy. So I was like, how can I lift more weights? Well, in Alabama, you could only be in the gym if you were a football player or on the weightlifting team. I really didn't see myself being a football player. So I joined the powerlifting team. Then I was supposed to go to college on a military scholarship. I had a scholarship to go to North Georgia for shooting, and I turned it down to take my cheerleading scholarship at Troy. The cool thing about that is when I was at Troy, DeMarcus Ware was at Troy.
Oh, okay.
So that was a cool time. And I was a varsity cheerleader there. Had a blast. Way too much partying. Had a blast.
Well, hey, the college experience is the college experience. You got to take it all in.
I wouldn't change it for anything. So where I grew up with my dad, we had a volunteer fire department that was right next door to our property. Now, my dad's house was sweet. We had 13 acres with a 4.5-acre fish pond that was fully stocked.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, 4-wheelers, horses, you name it. It was the best. But the volunteer fire department, which I still follow them on Facebook to this day, my dad was a volunteer firefighter. And so he kind of got me hooked on that because we had, the old red pagers in the house that would go off for tones in the middle of the night. And he'd wake up, put on clothes, go out, go drive the truck. And my dad was former special forces soldier. And so there were a couple times after I got my driver's license where he'd be too tired. So he'd be like, hey, you drive the truck. Okay. And it was just a regular truck. It wasn't a big fire truck,
okay.
A brush truck, basically. And so I got to kind of play around, train with them. They didn't have any formal like explorer programs or anything like that. Every year we had a pig roast. It was a really awesome volunteer fire department. It's still an awesome fire department. But I told my dad, I said, hey, I think I want to be a firefighter. And my dad's words were, sweetheart, we live in the South. You need to pick a job you can actually get.
Ouch.
He's not wrong. We had no female firefighters. We had female EMTs. But even in the paid departments around where I grew up, there were 0 female firefighters. All of the females worked in admin or were EMTs. So my dad said, I know you want to do it. And he said, and I think you'd be good at it. He said, but you're never going to get a job. So I ended up becoming a school teacher. I taught English, biology, science, and then I was a cheerleading coach, competitive cheerleading coach for decades. I competed on the team like you see on ESPN, like the cool stuff, until I was 34. So I just recently, within the past decade, gave that up. Then they did the No Child Left Behind, which a lot of people aren't really familiar with, but basically what it did is it tied the hands of a lot of teachers. You had to teach your class to the slowest student. Whether that student was mentally slow or just lazy, didn't matter. You had to dumb everything down for them. So all of your really awesome students that could go really far were getting really frustrated. You couldn't single them out because then that was hurtful to the student that wasn't excelling. You could no longer give zeros for students not turning in homework. You couldn't hold them accountable for their own behavior.
Uh-huh.
So I came home one day.
I'm keeping my mouth shut on that topic, by the way. Can you? Yeah. I don't know if for everybody that's watching the YouTube version, you can see my face. Like,
yeah. So it was very frustrating as a teacher, and I was a cheerleading coach, and The kids that I coached, I still talk to them to this day. They're still on my Facebook. They have babies of their own. They're married. I've gone to their weddings. They'll text me and say, hey, coach, I have a problem. So I held my kids to a really high standard. We're going to be good humans. We're going to do the right thing always. We may not always win all the trophies, but we are first and foremost going to be good humans, right? And we're going to have integrity. And we were known for being the nicest teams to show up. We always did the right thing. And the kids I coached, I was blessed that they're still in my life because I consider them family. And I literally walked away from all of it and said, I can't do this anymore. And signed up to be an EMT, got my EMT, was at the fire station as a volunteer EMT. I was in the EMS academy. We caught a fire and I missed the ambulance because they were out on a call. So they threw me on the engine, and Hawk, our driver, we get to the fire and he goes, hey, I need you to do something. And I said, okay. And he goes, hold this. He puts some hose on my shoulder and he goes, follow me. And I said, okay. So looking back, I know it was a 2-story single room involvement. It was venting out the roof. So we walk the hose. He's like, just keep walking, follow me. So I'm carrying this hose. I'm in my EMS gear. And he's like, put the hose there. And I said, okay. And he goes, now get back on the truck before Chief gets here. Okay. So I go running back to the truck and he said, sit on top and take lots of pictures. Okay, this I can do. I sat at that entire fire taking nothing but the coolest pictures I think I've ever taken in my life of these guys doing their job. And I was hooked. We got back to the station and I went to Chief and I said, how do I get to be a firefighter? I was 34 years old. And he said, well, we have an academy coming up. And that was the start of me just absolutely falling in love with fire. And I love structure. I love hazmat. Nobody loves hazmat. I love hazmat. And I'm that geek. But my hazmat classes are fun. And we actually do hands-on science experiments. Super fun. But yeah, so that it was really weird because the dichotomy of being a cheerleader for most of my life and then parlaying that into being a firefighter. My reputation at the fire station is that I'm usually the peppy one. When we do PT, I'm usually the one laughing and joking around and motivating everybody. I got all the guys to do a Zumba class with me one time.
Oh, God.
They actually enjoyed it. And, I have a reputation for being everybody's cheerleader, even though I'm a firefighter. Like I'm there to, if they do something great, I make them little cards or bring them little goodie bags or, put something on their locker. Like my goal is to be the morale and the heart and to teach them, and I still learn every day. And I love that I have these great new guys that are former military that teach me new things every day, that it's this great symbiotic relationship. But I think the funniest moment was, how you have to do standby at football games?
Yes.
So we have a high school that's in our district, and I knew the cheerleading coach because we used to compete together. And I had on my bunker pants, it was cold, and my job shirt, and we're doing standby. And she waves me over, and I look at my chief, and I said, can I go? And he goes, all right, go ahead. All right, you can go play. So I go over there, and it was first responder night. And I'm standing on the sidelines with the cheerleaders, and I'm doing all the cheers with them and doing all the, crowd interactions, and I'm in my bunker gear. And, of course, I didn't realize the news crew was there. I owed a lot of ice cream for that. But it was hysterical.
Oh, yeah.
Because Chief was laughing. He said, so I get home and I see the news and all I see is this little red bun hopping up and down. And of course the guys were like, do you have to be that girl? And I looked at them and I said, you'd miss me if I weren't here. And they were like, you're right. That's just you. And that's just my personality. And I laugh because we all come from such different backgrounds that even as unique as mine is, there are some parts about it that make me a better firefighter because I've just been on teams for so long and dealt with the aspect of team player that for me, I don't know what it's like to not be a team player. So it works very well with the fire department. And people say, well, how did you go from being a teacher to running into burning buildings? And I said, well, if you had to teach kids, you'd run into a burning building too.
I can only imagine.
I miss the kids. I don't miss the bureaucracy. And honestly, anybody who's a school teacher nowadays, God love them. They get all my respect, all my love, and
their hands are being tied more and more nowadays than ever before. And it's sad to see. It's sad to see.
It's horrible.
But Yeah, the ones that continue to fight through it and try to make the changes are those that are really going to make a difference. Hopefully, sooner rather than later. Because
I honestly think I have the best of both worlds now, because instead of teaching kids, I teach baby firefighters. Which, let's face it, sometimes that's like teaching kids.
Absolutely.
You know, where's your brother? Where's your helmet? Where's your lunch? Did you bring your jacket? So, you know, it does work out well. And not everybody runs to the training division because a lot of people don't like it. I happen to love it, so it works out well for my department.
Yeah, I love helping. If I can help make a future firefighter just as good, if not better, than what I am, like that, I want to be a part of that. I want to be able to say, I might have not been as good as this person, but I was a part of teaching this person being better than me. And for me, that's, I'm good with that. I can go to sleep at night knowing I taught somebody that is killing it on the job now.
I think my proudest moment is when they graduate and leave our department and go to a bigger department and a better job. I feel like, you know, that's my place on this earth, is if I can be a stepping stone so that they can go and crush it and do all the things that I'm too late in my career to do. I'm getting too old for that, you know, but if I can be a part of making them live their dream and live their best life, that's, at the end of the day, that's the best thing ever.
Absolutely. I want to take it back a little bit on your story. You said you know, your parents divorced when you were 1 year old. And so I'm assuming growing up that you didn't really know any other type of life, right? Like you didn't really compare.
No, that was normal.
Yeah, it was normal for you. Was there any point in time growing up as a child that when did you realize that, okay, maybe this isn't the norm compared to some of my peers here?
So, and this is interesting. So my biological mother, I have a stepmother that I adore. She's amazing. She's who I consider my mom. My biological mother was actually she was a horrible woman, very abusive mentally and physically. They had investigated her. I have an older sister as well. They had investigated her and attempted to take us out of the house several times. But for some reason, she always ended up winning. So I thought that for the longest time, I thought that was normal. Like, that's how moms acted. That's how, like, that was just normal life. And I didn't think there was anything different. Like, I didn't think there was any other way. My best friend Rachel's family pretty much adopted me in 4th grade. And I would go to her house after school, and her mom was there, and her grandma was there, and her dad was there, and her older brother was awesome. He used to always help us get into shenanigans. And so I got to see what family dinners were like. And, you know, your mom telling you to do your homework, or your mom giving you a hug because you got good grades, or your grandma being there. I think that's when I started realizing, hey, wait, Rachel's mom doesn't hit her. Now, not to say that we didn't get spanked with a fly flapper by her grandmother a time or two, but we deserved it. Straight up deserved it. And only a couple times. But I think that's when, and I think Rachel's mom, who, she knew what was going on in my house, but her hands were tied too. I mean, this was back in the 80s.
Right.
So the laws were different then. It was very hard to prove child abuse. It was very hard to get someone, you know, removed from a situation. And what they did, the best way that they helped me, was just to be there for me. And she moved away. They moved to Tennessee. And I remember crying because I wanted to go with her. And it just broke my heart. And she and I are still best friends to this day. We've been best friends since the first day of 1st grade. I still talk to her mom on Facebook all the time. And I think that was the beginning of me noticing that most of my childhood with my mother was more about survival than growing up. And it's interesting how when you parlay that kind of background, and when I moved in with my dad as a teenager, I was put into a lot of therapy because when you're living to survive versus living to thrive, you react differently, you know. So from the outside, everybody saw this super bubbly, happy girl that lettered in 8 sports and had tons of friends, and was always had a smile for everybody and never gave anybody any problems. I never got in fights at school. I never got in trouble. My dad, you know, once I got my driver's license, I may have skipped school quite a bit, but I still was on the honor roll. So my dad's like, I don't know whether to high five you or spank you. Like, what do I do here? At the end of the day, he was just like, don't get in trouble. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was like, but I'm on the honor roll,
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting how in a lot of the therapy that I've gone through and dealt with, that a lot of first responders come from that sort of background. We grew up surviving instead of thriving. And so that actually leads us more to wanting to heal other people and wanting to help other people. And I can tell you that my forte as a paramedic and as a healthcare provider, not necessarily a firefighter, but as a healthcare provider, it's more on my radar to recognize child abuse or recognize situations that need intervention than it would be, say, my partner who grew up in white bread America. Both of his parents are married. They've been married for 40 years. There was never any issues. I pick up on things that he doesn't. So I would say part of my drive, especially with pediatrics and kids and young teenagers, I try to be more of their advocate. When parents are like, oh, they're just being crazy and they're acting out and that's why I hit her. And I'm like, yeah, call me nuts, but I've raised 5 children and I never punched any of them in the face.
Right.
So my background with abuse and being a part of that system makes me a stronger advocate to see it and recognize it nowadays. That being said, it's also a really horrible trigger. We had a really bad pediatric death call, and that one I had to go home. And I looked at my chief and I said, I have to go home. I'm going to go to the gym and beat the crap out of the heavy bag. And he was like, okay. So it makes me a little more sensitive to that. But I found in going to therapy sessions with first responders and, going to the relapse prevention classes for alcohol and stuff, the majority of us that have these issues grew up in I can't say broken homes, I will say divorce homes, or dealt with some sort of trauma or abuse as children. And I think that would be an interesting study to follow up on. I'd love to see somebody do a research project on that.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see what kind of backgrounds a lot of these civil service members come into, because I've had a few guests come on to the show and share their background, and usually more often than not all of them, but more often than not, they come from a pretty tumultuous background. They come from a pretty tumultuous childhood where either one parent or the other was there or not. They were moved around between families, but with the parents never really there. We've had stories of, addicts as parents, and then, kids that literally saw their parents die from overdose or be arrested from, bad actions and stuff. And it's these things that mold us without even realizing it's molding us at the time, that now we're finding ourselves a part of the solutions that our parents never really got. Right. I had a TikTok Peacock, if I remember correctly, and he witnessed his mother being arrested and everything, and it was interesting to hear how he used that as kind of like a little bit of a driving force to become a cop. And then there was another guest of mine, and he was on the show, and he shared this story, so I can share. K9 Arlo, Tyler, he knows that his father was killed by cops, and that didn't change his mind about being a cop. Like, he understood, maybe not at the time, but he understood later on down the road that it wasn't the cop's fault, right? He was doing his job. And it's interesting how we use what we grow up with to develop who we become to be, especially in our professional lives. It's weird how it ties into our professional lives. Obviously, a lot of us can say that, well, I went through this, and that's why when certain situations I act this way. On a general basis, on a general term basis, that makes sense for anybody. Going through child abuse stuff and then seeing, a child abuse case, that makes sense. You wouldn't even have to be a first responder for that to trigger you.
Right.
Right. But now you're becoming an advocate with the profession you're doing. So it's weird how it ties into all that stuff.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
Well, it was funny. I was talking in a group, my relapse prevention group last week, and we've got a few first responders in there, which is nice. It's not sole first responders or like PD or whatever, but it's interesting that that's the majority of it. And we were talking about it, and I said, I could take everything that I've been through and say, oh, it was their fault, it wasn't handled correctly, or nobody helped me, or, I didn't have the support. And instead of doing that, which, makes yourself a victim, so I believe more in empowerment. And they always joke because, I tell them, I'm like, I'm not sure why God's got me on the path he's got me on. My future doesn't look like the one that I had all mapped out in my head. I said, but I am really enjoying the path, and I'm enjoying seeing where this is going. Because, talking with the group, and, one of the guys was bummed. He was like, I really wanted this job and I didn't get it. And I said, dude, I really thought I wanted this other job that I didn't get. And I said, if I would have gotten that job, then I can't be doing all the advocacy stuff that I do with us. And we couldn't be doing, like, we do sober events like bowling, darts, escape rooms, to provide an outlet, especially with people who, maybe they got a DUI and they're on leave from work. So they don't have anybody to hang out with because all they're used to is the bar.
Right.
So we give them another option, and we try and get as childish and stupid with it as we can, because, like, why not? It's your one time when you can just do stuff for fun, and nobody cares. We're just there to have fun. But I told them, I said, if I would have continued on the path that I thought was meant for me, I wouldn't be where I am. And, it's funny, and I'm not super uber religious. I am Christian, I'm Methodist. I think I tend more towards, like, there's like this big path that we're on, and everybody's got like this golden thread, right? And your thread is supposed to go somewhere, so you're just kind of riding it along. And so, I told him, I said, it's not what I thought, but this is way better than I ever imagined, because the way that I've been able to be active and advocate, and like I tell everybody, I want to be the person that I needed. I want to be that person for somebody else, because I needed that person and they weren't there. So I'm going to do it. And I'm not, I don't have the best, counseling background. I'm no psychologist. I'm no psychiatrist. I just have a really big heart. I have a mama bear instinct, and I'm really good at research. So if I can't figure it out, I'm going to find somebody who can, and I'm not going to let it go until it's handled. And I think we need more of those in firehouses, because I'm not out for anybody's rank. I'm not out to make you look bad so you lose your job so I have a chance to promote. I'm not here to tattle you out to anybody. I'm looking at the end of the day, can I look myself in the mirror and did I do the right thing, and was I a good human? I don't want to let anybody down because I was afraid of not looking good for a promotion, or I don't want to let somebody down because, it doesn't look right if you talk about how you had a period of mental instability. Well, instead of focusing on the period, why don't we focus on, hey, I came back from the other side and I learned a few things, so let's pass that on.
Exactly. And I love the way you said you became something that you needed at the time, because that's exactly what I believe a lot of people that are trying to make a change in something, right? Like, a lot of things are developed due to either somebody noticed that there was a need and it wasn't there, so they developed it, or somebody went through something, realized they wanted it or needed it, it wasn't there, so they become it or create it. Right. And I'm noticing a lot, especially within the advocacy realm of, mental health and being okay for who you are and the type of people that we wish we had in our lives, that tends to be a driving force for individuals that didn't have something like that to become better for themselves, but in the process saying, this is the kind of person I wanted to be, so there must be somebody out there that needed this type of person as well, so I'm going to become that now because I can be that for others. And while you're becoming that, you're realizing maybe you didn't actually need it, but you wanted that guidance, and so you become it yourself. And now that you're yourself, you're like, wow, I wish I had this mindset when I was going through the shit I was going through.
Oh gosh, I wish, and this is part of the thing that I've been so blessed because we have a new wildland medical technician course coming up, and then we have our REM stuff where we have our new onboarding for our people. And I love that my buddy Jason gives me time to talk to everybody and say, okay, all technical stuff aside, we all come from different backgrounds. We've got a lot of NASAR guys, we've got a lot of USAR guys, we got a lot of military guys. So I tell them, I'm like, look, I'm going to be the one to say it. You're going to have tough times. Your wife is probably not going to like you being deployed. You're probably not going to like being deployed. Everybody's going to go through some crap. When you go through that crap, because a lot of people in our livelihoods don't want to look weak. And of course, asking for help makes us look weak. I don't understand why that is still a thing. Because I would rather have somebody say, I need help, I don't know how to do this, than pretend they know what they're doing and get somebody killed, right? The same goes for mental health. I would rather somebody say, I don't know what I'm doing and I need help, and me say, okay, well, I'm not exactly sure, but let's go through it together, right? Because buddy system is always better than trying to muck it up by yourself. So I always get the opportunity to present to the guys, if you're not sure, if you need help, or bills can't be paid, or wife is having trouble with childcare, contact me, we'll figure it out. If I can't figure it out, I can find the human that can, right? So I am like your surrogate mom. I'm your fire line sister. I am your family member that is the problem solver. So feel free to call me. And what's nice is they do. One guy's wife was super mad that, he was deployed and she had heard all these, wonderful stories about how people fool around on the fire line. And I was like, well, first of all, so I'm like, we won't even discuss hygiene.
You know how long they go between taking baths and showers? Like,
so what's funny is I called her and I was like, hey, it's low. And she's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, let me as a female just tell you about the fire. And what's funny is once I had that conversation with her, and I sent her a video of like, these are the tents. This is what we're doing. This is a day in the life of what we do. And she was like, oh, she said, well, why are people telling me these stories? And I said, because they want to see you get spun up, because misery loves company.
Mm-hmm.
So find different company, and so we managed to head that off at the pass. But thank God he had the sense to come to me and be like, my wife's losing her mind. Like, I don't know what to do. She's going crazy. And I was like, as a female, I got this, and it's interesting because a lot of people used to say when I was new in the fire service, oh, female firefighters, like, I can't believe that. I had some old school people that I dealt with in the beginning, like, well, females don't really belong in this job. Honestly, we bring a fresh perspective to it, especially for psych calls or when we're talking the EAP program, we bring a different perspective just because we think differently about things. So, when it comes to angry wives of teammates, I love that I can call them and be like, hey, sis, what's going on? And one woman was like, I just need a fucking spa day. I need to get my hair done. And I'm like, okay. I was like, okay, well, I got a friend that lives near you, so she can come and watch your kids for a few hours. And she was like, I would fucking love you. And I'm like, done, we got it. But men don't think like that.
No, we don't.
And it's not a ding. It's not an insult. It's more of a, like my husband would tell me, well, just go to the spa. And then I'd be like, then I gotta hire a sitter, but then I gotta find somebody to take the dog out, but then so like my brain as a woman, I'm thinking of all these 50 million things I gotta do before I can go relax, because that's our life, right? So when I said, look, I got a sitter coming your way, she's gonna feed the kids, you just go. I was like, and don't worry about paying her. She was like, oh my God. And I said, and don't tell me no, put your crap in a bag, and when she shows up, you leave. Okay. Boy, she was so much happier after that. But it is interesting that we don't want to acknowledge the difference in the sexes, because then it's considered sexist, but there is a difference.
Absolutely.
We do need to acknowledge it.
Absolutely. I want to go back a little bit. Now, you said when during high school you moved to your dad, was that due to the circumstances you're dealing with when you were living with your mother?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and that's actually an interesting story. So what finally got me out of her house was we had gotten into an argument, and it was literally stupid stuff. Like there was a coffee cup in the sink, or, her laundry wasn't folded because she was the child and I was the adult. I did all the house chores and cooking and cleaning. So we got into a physical altercation, and I remember she had me by the neck at the top of the stairs, And I was 14 years old. And at 14, I remember thinking, well, if she's going to kill me, I'm going to take her with me. So she was leaning me out over the stairs by my neck, choking me. And I reached my hands up and grabbed her hair and threw myself backwards.
Oh, wow.
And was like, we're both going. Like, I can't do this anymore. If I'm going, I'm taking you with me. And so she ended up, she had a sprained wrist. She called the cops and told the cops, oh, she's bipolar. She's on medication. She's all these things. So I was not bipolar. I was not on medication. It was lies. But these are the days before we had electronic medical records.
Mm-hmm.
So you could go to different doctors and tell them different things, and they had no way to check up. And so this police officer, and I wish I knew his name, and I tried at one point to find the records from the call, but it had been too long by the time I realized how I could do it. So I don't know who the officer was. But I remember I was sitting outside waiting for the cops to come because I knew she called them. And I knew that they were going to arrest me because that's what they do to juveniles who act up. And it wasn't my first rodeo with it. And so anyway, so I was sitting outside, I had my little bag ready to go, and the cop walks up and he's like, what's going on? And I said, can I go sit in your car? And he looked at me and he's like, well, what's going on? And I said, well, I know you're going to take me. I said, I'm not even going to fight you. That's cool. Just get me out of here. I don't care where you take me, but can I go sit in your car? And he was like, okay. And I remember his partner looked at me like, that's kind of a weird response.
Right.
And so they ended up taking me to this place called Fair Oaks. It's a psychiatric facility. So I was on an M1 hold, we call them M1 in Colorado. So I was on a 72-hour hold because she claimed I was, out of control and all these things. And as they were checking me in, as a young adult, a child, basically, when they check you into these places, they do a head to toe assessment, mostly to check for track marks, see if you're on drugs, see if you're a cutter or anything that you might have done to yourself. Luckily for me, when they were doing this assessment, they noted the belt lash marks on my legs that had broken the skin. They noted the black eye I had. And my face was so swollen that when I got x-rays, they noted the cracked eye orbital that I had. My biological mother, the only injury she had was a sprained wrist from going down the stairs, but yet she claimed I attacked her. So they noted all of these really significant injuries on my intake. And then when they did x-rays, they noted that I had several clavicle fractures that had healed. And so they asked me about it, and I was honest. I'm like, she beats the shit out of me. I said, and then she pretends I'm crazy and you guys lock me up and she gets her way. And so what they started doing is when she would come to visit me in the hospital for the parent visit day, and I tried to decline the visits and say, no, I'm happy being locked up because I'm not with her, so I'll just stay here. And what's funny is I followed all the rules, got good grades, did everything I was supposed to. I was promoted to what they call P2 status. So I actually could go from unit to unit and to outside without being watched. Like I wasn't a flight risk at all because they were like, there's something wrong that this kid would rather play by these rules and stay here than go home. I was happy there. Nobody was beating me. So they started videotaping her and putting my visits in a specific room. And they happened to catch her instigating a fight with me, slapping me, and then punching me. And then she slapped herself in the face and called for the guard and said that I attacked her. They had it on video.
Wow.
So I ended up calling my dad. They let me have phone privileges to call my dad because she had told them that she didn't know where my dad was and he was an alcoholic and wasn't in the picture. My dad's insurance was paying for me to be in this place. So that was a lie.
Right.
So I managed to call him, and within 48 hours, I was discharged and on a plane.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. And honestly, I will have to say that was the first time I learned that there were people that would advocate for you, and there were people in healthcare and within law enforcement that could do the right thing. Because she had gotten away with beating the crap out of me and blaming it on me being out of control for years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she did it to my sister. And my sister got to leave and move out with my dad because she and my sister got into it, and she tried to attack my sister with a knife, and then my sister almost stabbed her. We joke around about it now that we're adults. I'm like, you could have ended it 5 years early, Lisa.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, that's not funny. I'm like, it's a little funny.
I love dark humor.
I know. Yeah. Oh God, I got it in spades. But honestly, that was my first. The cops themselves even told the ladies when they were dropping me off, they were like, something's not right for a kid who is supposed to be out of control and not compliant and like supposedly crazy. She's amazingly calm and lucid.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I was using my manners with the police. Yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you. Where am I going? Can I get a snack? I'm hungry. I mean, and it helped that once they started notating all the bruises and all the marks and all the old healed injuries. And they were like, well, how'd you break your collarbone? And I was like, I didn't know I did. They're like, you have 2 healed collarbone injuries. And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it was nice that hospital did the right thing and they caught her, which
that is good. That is good. And I'm glad that you got out of it. It sucks that you had to go through all the things you did just to get to that point to get out of it. But thank God you got out of it. When you did go to your father, you said that you were in therapy, if I remember correctly. Was that something that was planned, or was it like your father's just like, hey, look, we're going to do this for you?
So my stepmom, who's actually my mama, I mean, she is, God love her. She's a nurse. Well, she's a retired nurse, but she was a trauma nurse, an ER nurse, and then a psych nurse for a long time. So, when they finally realized, I lived with my grandma for a little bit when I first got back from Florida, and then I wasn't happy. So then I moved in with my dad and my stepmom. And that was actually really cool. That was amazing. They were, God love them. They were probably ill prepared to handle me because I didn't lash out or anything. I really didn't misbehave. It was more that I didn't know how to communicate or open up or talk about feelings. So my mama decided, let's put her in therapy. Let's get her some help. Let's figure out what's going on. The hospital that I was at in Florida prior to leaving had put me on some pretty heavy medication based on what my bio mom told them. So they had me on lithium.
Oh my
not
God.
prescribed, and Klonopin and a bunch of other things.
You're a zombie.
I was. And what's funny is, it wasn't until they asked me, how long have you been on these medications? And I told them, I said, I don't take medications. And they were like, well, you're supposed to. And I said, I haven't seen a doctor in 2 years. I don't know what she's talking about. And I think that's when the hospital started to worry about getting sued, because they did, I think I have this joke, it's funny. They did every single test that they can do on you, including looking at your brain waves and all the like Rorschach and personality tests. I mean, I was tested out the wazoo. And that's when they started weaning me off the medication, because they were like, oh, we have made a major boo-boo. Based on my biological mother's word, they were putting me on a dose of a medication that had never been prescribed. Wow. And that's why I think electronic medical records nowadays are so vital, because it's very hard for parents to get away with that. Going through EMT school and paramedic school, I later learned that basically what my bio mom was doing to me was, Munchausen by proxy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an illness. She was sick, but that's how she controlled us and got what she wanted. And that the woman was such a master manipulator. She could have sold the bridge in freaking San Francisco. But my parents, my dad and my mama, were like, you're going to need a little help learning how to be normal. You're going to need a little help learning that it's okay to say no. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to have emotions, and we're not going to hit you. We're not going to beat you. And I would say, honestly, I mean, I had a really good jump on it, but honestly, it wasn't until the past 2 years that I really got very well at not only putting up boundaries, but enforcing my own boundaries for my own health, and really getting good at communication. And because I think, if you don't learn that as a child, it's really, really stinking hard to learn it as an adult.
Absolutely. When, I went through some tragedy as a child, I didn't start working through it until about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. Yeah. And realizing how that situation literally defined how I lived my life and how I treated other people, how I treated myself, it was an eye-opener. It was like, wow, I was an asshole when I didn't need to be. Mind you, I was being this way because I thought it's what I needed to do to survive for myself, not realizing the truth and that it was a completely unhealthy manner of doing it. But it was this eye-opening moment of I can't believe I was living my life like this entire time all because I felt like I couldn't speak up. I couldn't say anything. You have said this a couple of times during our conversations, and I kind of want to go into that. And I'm glad you before I do, I want to say thank you for kind of sharing your past and your history. Some of us have a hard time reliving certain things, especially when we start telling those stories. The images and the ideas and the feelings and the emotions start popping up. The brain is a weird thing when we do that. When we start reliving the past, we remember the emotions and we start feeling those things that we did in the past. But you seem like you got a damn good grip on things now, which is amazing. So I do appreciate you giving us that story. I think it helps outline the kind of person that you later on become in life. But you did mention something to the effect of substance abuse, and I want to kind of get into that. I'm interested. When did you notice? Let me rephrase. When did that substance abuse, disease, addiction, whatever it is, start affecting you? And then when did you notice it was affecting you? Because too often addicts,
it's 2 different things.
Yeah, it's 2 different things. Too often addicts don't realize that they're addicted or they're having an issue with something until like rock bottom usually is the turning point, the aha moment. Something tragic or something crazy happens and it's like, oh shit, this is an issue. And it's not until we talk to others in our lives that care about us to be like, oh yeah, we noticed this years ago. So can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah. And I think my path everybody's path is different. Mine didn't really follow. Normally there's a straight path, a straight downward spiral. Mine kind of zigzagged and meandered and then just went right off a fucking cliff. So like there's no other way to describe it. So I don't really have an addictive personality. I've never tried drugs in my life. I'm not a huge fan of drugs. Don't do pain pills. I've had multiple surgeries. For me, I was always a social drinker. Cheerleaders, we drink to have fun. We drink when we party, do a couple shots, who can still throw a standing tuck, right? Because that's the smart thing to do. Or the alumni association, when you're underage and you're on the sidelines, would hand you a water bottle with the college logo on it, and it's alcohol. You're drinking it on the sideline. So, it never, I would say up until about 3 years ago, it's not that I drank every day or every night, or it's not that, I could go without drinking, and I usually didn't hit the hard stuff. I do love a good Irish whiskey. I'm not going to lie. I'm Scotch Irish through and through, and a really good smooth whiskey. Like there's nothing better. But I would say when I started really having difficulties at the station is when I started noticing I would get off shift at 8 a.m. and come home, and I'd pour a drink to unwind so I could take a nap, because, you run all night. So you come home, or you have a Bloody Mary with breakfast. Or I think in the firefighting world, when you get together, like everybody drinks, or you've had a rough shift. Hey, let's go get a drink. You're having trouble with your officer. Oh, let's go get a drink and talk about it. I worked through COVID, and I worked 114 hours. Let me go get a drink, because if I drink, they can't call me back in.
Right.
And anybody who says they haven't done that is a damn liar.
No.
I legit have, and this was before all of this. There were times where I would see the phone number popping up on my phone, and it would be 9 o'clock in the morning, and I would pour a shot, take the shot, and then say, I'm sorry, I've got ETH. I can't come in. Because then I wasn't lying. I think what started really, when everybody else, or my very closest friends, started noticing something was going on, is I've always been the happy, bubbly, fun-loving low. That's just me. I mean, I giggle when we're training, or if I'm getting my butt kicked, I giggle even if I'm dying, right? It's just, I have laugh lines for a reason, because I'm always laughing and smiling. But it got to a point where I was so frustrated when I would have my girls' night with my fire sister. She and I went through academy together. She ended up quitting fire because of how she was treated. So now I'm last man standing, which is bad. But we would drink, and of course we'd drink a bottle of wine. Bottle of wine's nothing. You know, we both had very high tolerances. It was when I would start crying when I drank, or I would start getting angry, that people were like, wait a minute, this isn't low. Like, this is happy-go-lucky, fun time low. Like, what's going on? And my Ohana, there are 5 of us that did the firefighter calendar together, that were all firefighters at different places. We're ridiculously close. We all have the same tattoo, and we do family vacations together. And we used to tie one on and like drink all the time on vacation. But even they started noticing I was getting mean. And for me, that's not me. I'm always the one that's like, come on, guys, hug it out. Like, or, you know, if somebody gets mad, the first thing out of my mouth is, you know, I feel that you're upset. I understand that you're upset. Your feelings are valid. I'm just trying to understand it. So can you explain it? Like, that would always be my thing. Well, when I started to, I would say it would be after a couple shots or whatever, instead of being fun, let's go party low, it was, I don't give a fuck about your feelings. Go fuck yourself, you know, or let me tell you what I really think about you. And everybody was like, oh. So it became a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. And what I was doing is I was trying to bury the frustration I was feeling at work. And it was just miserable, honestly. And I was just trying to numb it. And in the only way I knew how, which was socially acceptable for every group that I hung out with, hey, let's go drink. Let's day drink. We're all off today. Oh, it's a Monday. We're going to drink at 9 a.m. and then go play some golf. And then we're going to drink some more. So not only was it socially acceptable, but it wasn't even frowned upon. Like, that's how we dealt with our feelings. You know, oh, you know, it's okay to be frustrated. Just have a drink. You'll be fine. I cannot tell you how many times I heard that. Mm-hmm. That is the absolute wrong advice we need to be giving to people who are starting to act differently. Right. And it wasn't that I was missing work due to drinking. I could be completely sober, functional for work. I could even go days in between without having alcohol. For me, the abuse of the substance came not in frequency, but in why. And I was using it to bury my feelings, deal with, you know, what was going on in my frustration. And I wasn't talking about it, processing it, or working it out of my system. It was just drowning me slowly from the inside. And alcohol was the bandage I was using for it. The ultimate aha moment, because everybody has one eventually. And if they're like, oh, that's never going to happen to me, bullshit, it will. If you'd asked anybody at the station, they would have told you that never in a million years did they see what happened coming. They would have never thought it would have been me. And they would have said that I'm always the one that helps everybody else. And it made 0 sense. So I got home from the station at about 8:30. COVID was a thing. And of course, we were running COVID hours. And
so this was in the last 2 years.
Yeah, this was in March of 2020.
Okay.
So very recently. Mm-hmm. Well, for me,
2 years.
Recently.
Yeah, 2 years.
And we had been doing a lot. We were trying to figure out how we were going to run EMS Academy because they needed to get their hours. I was finishing up paramedic school. And there had been a lot going on with paramedic school. The school I was going to, which was out of state, you do your didactic online, but then you do your clinicals in state. Managed to completely get into a snafu with AMR. It was a huge pissing contest. I got dropped from my school, $10,000 down the drain. I had to start a program all over again. And I had 1 patient left. That's it.
On your clinicals?
On my clinicals.
Eesh. Ouch.
Yeah, that made me drink a lot. I'm not even going to lie. I think the fact that I continued on to be a paramedic after that was huge, because I had already done all the classes, all the hours, all the everything. And they were like, hey, you got to start over. And I was like, see this bottle? We're going to be friends. So I had that happen. Then COVID hit. And so I had come up with a lot of great ideas for what we could do at the station. And I was like, hey, I just want to be a part of it. Let me be an instructor. You know, I love teaching. Oh, yeah, no problem. You can do that. I get home. I came up with the way that we were going to do it online, said, I think this is how we handle it. It meets all the state guidelines. This is how we can track them. This is how they can do their online learning. We record it. Then we have proof of attendance. Like, we meet all the guidelines doing all these things. Oh, it's great. You came up with that. Can you send us that in an email? Sure. Let me spell all of this out for you. I get home, had not drank, was exhausted, An hour later, an email comes out about how they're going to be running the new EMS Academy. So-and-so had this great idea. He came up with it, and he's going to be lead.
Somebody took credit for your ideas.
Again. And then I got a separate email saying that, thank you for my interest, but I was not going to be an instructor in the academy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you legit just had me work on all of that. And once again, I'm getting screwed. So I did what any firefighter would do. And I started drinking. And my husband was at work, and my teenage son was not there. Thank goodness. And so by the time my husband got home, I was already a bottle and a half in on Jameson.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And so the red hair is not a bottle job. Like, I am a natural redhead, and God did not give me this warning label for shits and giggles. So my husband gets home, and I am rip roaring ready for a fight, like ready. And I am pissed, and I'm hurt, and I'm angry, and nothing in me says, sit down, vent your feelings, cry it out, tell your husband what's going on. Nope. That thought process was a bottle in the past. And so all I could do is pick a fight, get angry with him, because I wanted to hit, scream, yell. Like, the job that I loved was slowly killing me, but it was the job I loved and wanted to do, and I didn't know how to step away from it without killing all my hopes and dreams. And so it was a hot mess. So I took off in my car, should not have been driving. Luckily didn't kill anybody. Hid from all of my friends. My husband did call police to try and find me. He did call my captain at the time. I'm still really good friends. He's no longer a captain. He promoted, but at the time he was my captain. Legit, this man cared about my well-being and me as a human, knew what I was going through at the station. There had been other things, but always had my back. So he called him and said, look, she's drunk. She took off in her car. I don't know where the hell she is. Like, she's a danger at this moment. And he said, and even my captain was like, I don't want you to call the cops, because if they catch her, her career's over. And my husband was like, if they don't catch her, she's going to kill someone. Like, I put them in a horrible position.
Right.
So I ended up passing out. I went and I parked not far from my house, thank God, in a field, and where I knew they weren't going to find me. Sat there, had a grand old pity party, because, you know, when you're drunk, that's exactly what you should do, because everything looks really promising when you're drunk. I have a really sweet med bag in my car that my husband gave me when I got my paramedic. And that really sweet med bag has some IV catheters in it. So me being at the end of my rope and me being like, fuck it all, like, I don't want to quit because then they win, but I can't keep living this way. I put an 18 gauge catheter in my arm, didn't connect it to anything, and let it drain. I woke up, I passed out. I woke up and it was dark. I don't remember what time it was. I had my phone turned off so nobody could track me, nobody could find me. It looked like there had been a murder in the front seat of my car. The catheter had come out of my arm, but the entire front seat of my car was covered in blood. I was covered in blood. And I think there was enough left in my brain that I looked down and was like, oh, what did I do? So I drove home, which I shouldn't have been driving. I drove home, made it home. I get home, and at this point, my husband had been beside himself and was dealing with his own demons and his own problems. So he was drunk. And I tried to wake him up, and I remember vividly saying, I fucked up. And he said, go to bed, we'll deal with it in the morning. And I shook him, and I was trying to, like, impress upon him, I have really fucked up. And he said that nothing was coming out, so maybe my brain was saying it and I wasn't voicing it. I don't know what happened. But he said, go to bed. And I said, okay. Now, he couldn't see that I was covered head to toe in blood. So the next morning, my captain showed up at the house and was like, her car's here, is she here? And my husband says, yeah, she's upstairs sleeping. Because that's what he thought. And my captain said, I want to see her. And my husband was like, you know, sometimes she sleeps in just underwear, so let me go up first and make sure everything's okay. And my cap's like, I don't care if she's butt ass naked, wake her up. right? So at this point, he was thinking he was just going to rip me a new one for scaring everybody and tell me to get help. Well, they get upstairs and I'm unresponsive with a GCS of 3. Now, before I crawled into bed, I had peeled off all my clothes and put them in the washer.
Mm-hmm.
And I put on a t-shirt and sweatpants. So they didn't know what the hell was going on. They didn't know why I was responsive. They called the ambulance. And this is all from what I'm told. I don't remember any of this. They called the ambulance. They asked my husband, does she take anything? He's like, no, she's not a drug person. And I guess the EMT Narcaned me anyway, which, okay, whatever.
It's not going to hurt.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt me. But my husband kept saying, that's not what she does. My blood pressure was 60/40.
Yeah, you had no blood in your fucking system.
My heart rate was 122, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. Couldn't figure it out. So the ambulance loads me up, and of course, this is in the middle of COVID, so they're in their whole, like, you know, Monsters Inc. suits and wrap me up and put a freaking spit sock on my face and everything else. And they take me to the hospital. So I get to the hospital still doesn't know what's going on. And of course, they take me to the hospital I used to work at, which just adds insult to injury.
Mm-hmm.
So as I get to the hospital, my captain tells my husband, let's look in her car. Let's see if we figure anything out. So my husband opens my car door, my captain's standing there, and there's blood everywhere. I mean, and at this point, it's congealed, it's dried. It looks like I have murdered somebody in my car. There's so much blood everywhere. My husband passes out and my captain throws up. They then call the hospital and they're like, hey, she's coming in. We know what she did. So they cut off my shirt, and that's when they can see that my whole arm is covered in blood. So they're like, okay, whatever she did, she drained herself of blood somehow. So they were looking for lacerations, but there weren't any. I wake up, 8 or 9 hours later, realize where I am, and I'm like, oh, I have fucked up, right? I didn't realize how bad I had fucked up, but I had fucked up. So at this point, my station was aware. I was immediately placed on LOA. They tell me they're sending me to Denver because I'm on a mandatory hold. I'm not saying shit to the doctor. He's like, what'd you do? And I'm like, nothing. Can't prove I did a thing, right? There's nothing in my system, no alcohol, no drugs, no nothing. Everything comes back clear. Until me being an asshole, because at this point I'm pouting like a petulant child because I've been busted. And now it's going to hurt my career, which my career was already killing me. But now I'm more concerned about the professional ramifications than I am my own mental health. So I look down and I noticed that I've got this huge hematoma on my arm. And I said, who the hell did my IV? And they're like, oh, the medic on AMR. And I was like, mine didn't even have a bruise. Boom, they had me. I gave myself away. So I was so resistant to even talking to any counselors. I went to the Heroes unit in Denver. Here's where I will say this is probably the best damn thing they have going on for mental health for first responders and anything else. It is a first responder military specific psych unit.
Yep.
Love it. Did not love it at my first 2 days there. Did not love it at all.
Well, yeah, you didn't choose to go there.
No,
I don't think anybody that, so your story is actually very similar here, and I want to stop just for a second. You know, I was unaware that you had, it was a suicide attempt that obviously was driven by an altered state, your altered mental state due to the alcohol. And had you been with it, you probably wouldn't have done it.
I wouldn't have.
Right. So again, alcohol is a depressant. We all know that. So if you're already depressed or stressed out to begin with, and you use alcohol to try to fix that, you are going to amplify those feelings of stress and defeat and depression. And when you get told you have to go somewhere for your mental health and it's not your choice, nobody wants that. Right? They're like, no, look, I'm aware I fucked up, okay? I'm aware I fucked up. It won't happen again. All right? Just get me the fuck out of here. I know what I did. Like, guys, I know what I did. I fucked up. My bad. It won't happen again. But the thing is without treatment and without recognizing what actually happened, When I say actually happened, I don't mean the actual physical aspects of what happened. I got drunk, went here, put an IV in my arm. I tried to kill myself. I know what happened. I won't do that again. It was like, it's a little bit deeper than that. We got to find out what in your head, what those chemicals were doing and why you had those thought processes that you even had to start drinking to deal with the things.
Right.
Like there's way more to the story here than just don't do that again. It's way more to the story.
And it's funny because that was my reaction. You know, so I had two different therapists that came in, and the first one was this God lover. So she was a new therapist and she had just gotten off student status, and she comes in, and of course I'm just sitting there not saying a word, because if you don't say anything, they can't hold it against you. I'm like, I teach the psych portion of EMT class. I'm not opening my mouth, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have to fill out these assessments, and I'm like, if I'm honest about this, I'm gonna be stuck here, right? So like, I'll give them just enough of the truth. So this one cute, adorable young lady comes in, and she's all, I'm here, we're gonna do some yoga and some breathing exercises, and we're just gonna work with our feng shui, and we're gonna find our third eye. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, this is supposed to make me not want to kill myself, right?
See, if that was me, I'd be like, I'm a dude. I don't have a third eye. I have a brown eye.
So, well, what was fun? There was a guy in class that was kind of like that. One of the guys leans over at me and he goes, I thought we're supposed to be here to fix why we drink. And I looked at him and I was like, right? You know, and then so instantly there's another counselor in the room, and she's eyeballing the two of us because it's another fire medic that I'm in there with. And so he sees my tattoos and he's like, oh, so you're a firefighter? And I went, thank you for not asking me if my husband's a firefighter, because that's usually what I get asked, even though it's my tattoo. But anyway, so of course we are not being very nice, nor are we being attentive to this one lady who's just, God love her, trying to help us. Well, the other counselor sees that we're not playing very nice, right? And we're being our cynical little turdish selves. And she pulls us into a different room, sits down on a chair, and proceeds to call us out on all of our bullshit. And like, this woman hit the nail on the head so much that I considered throwing a chair at her. And I'm not normally a violent person. Like, I'm a lover, not a fighter. And all I could think was, if I throw a chair at her, I'm buying myself 2 more weeks. Yeah. Like, and the other guy was just sitting there staring, and you could just see his jaw working. The beautiful part about this other therapist is she was a former firefighter paramedic who got a DUI and ended up going into counseling. So you want to talk about somebody who was put in the right place at the right time to call us both out on our bullshit? Not only was she good about calling us out on our bullshit, she knew every trick we were going to throw at it, and she caught us before we got away with it. So she was infuriating. She's the first person I listened to. And it took me every bit of those 3 days to start listening. I was so resistant. And the only reason I got let out after 3 days is because I agreed to outpatient. And she referred me to another counselor who I still see to this day for, I call them my tune-ups. Because just like we do weekly truck checks, right? You check your fluids, you check your oil, you check your tires, right? Every human needs that too. Maybe not weekly, but monthly, right? You need your monthly tune-up on your brain. So I still see this counselor monthly. He is a retired firefighter paramedic who has turned into counseling, got all of his degrees, all of his things. He gets it. And he believes in, he's part of the reason why I became an advocate, because he believes in like EMDR therapy. He has sent some first responders who are no longer first responders. They go to the ketamine clinics up in Denver, and they've seen great response with that. I don't do that. I do binaural beats. He's a huge fan of binaural beats for trauma and traumatic events and healing old traumas.
I want to stop you real quick. I'm going to stop you real quick. There's everything you're saying, for people that aren't recognizing what she's talking about, everything that she's talking about are what they call exercises or practices within therapy. Now, a lot of us think that therapy is just sitting down, talking about your feelings and getting them off your chest, and then getting some different perspective on how maybe we should look at it. Well, there's different types of therapies that go along with mental health that she's talking about. Ketamine therapy, EMDR, which I have done EMDR twice. And man, I'm not going to go into that. And there's a bunch of different practices within therapeutic treatment that can help rewire your brain, for lack of a better term. It is rewiring your brain. It is not allowing the stress to dictate how you feel, but learning how to actually manage the stress in a healthy way. And instead of automatically reacting like first responders do all the time, when there's a problem, let's fix it. Well, now it's like there's a problem. Okay, what are some solutions that we can do with this problem? Because it's a lot more complicated than problem fix. So I just want everybody to be aware that what she's talking about are just different sorts of therapies that are offered while you're in therapy. Mm-hmm. So there are exercises and different ideas to kind of rewire that brain chemistry. Neuroplasticity, while it's always been there, has just been proven to be there within the last decade. And now a lot of the studies are going into how can we manipulate this neuroplasticity to work quicker for us in a healthy manner so we can start being better a little bit faster. Neuroplasticity, if you're not aware of that term, is basically the rewiring of your brain. Is this thing used to trigger me and set me off, but I am going to use these practices that I've learned now from therapy, so that way I am starting to change my brain and how it reacts to it on a neurological level, on a literally chemical level. You can start manipulating how certain neurons and everything else in your brain start firing by doing some of these therapies that have been studied. It's very, very complicated, very, very scientific. And if you're not familiar with what she's saying, like EMDR, the ketamine therapy and everything else like that, you're like, what are you talking about? They all tie into this idea of being able to manipulate your brain chemistry in a way that not only therapy, but psychiatric drugs and doing these exercises that actually train your brain to start working a different way. So every time, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the best way I heard it described is if you think of a dirt road. So your trauma memory has a dirt road, a path that it always follows. So you hear a gunshot, you go to the trauma. It follows a dirt road, right? You see an abused child, it goes to the trauma. So your brain is used to traveling this dirt road. What specifically what I like about binaural beats is binaural beats will create a new road around that dirt road. So instead of going from point A to point B anymore, it creates a new pathway C. So everybody says, well, what happens to point A, point B? Well, that road now is like a dead end. It's like a bridge that's no longer there. And you've got this new road that you take around. So it, and the easiest way I heard it described, there's a whole lot of science. You guys should research it. It's amazing to read up on this. As a first responder, I love reading up on all the new stuff. It helps me be a better clinician. But when you are reorganizing and repatterning these brain waves, you're creating new pathways. So that way, it's not just training yourself not to have that same response. It's literally getting rid of the trauma response. So it's no longer there. And there's a lot of research going on without it. I prefer the binaural beats. I did not like EMDR. So, that's my thing. But the tools in the toolbox are there. If you've got a broken leg, well, we're going to give you fentanyl, right? Okay, well, if you've got a broken memory, like something's wrong that's causing a hiccup that is causing you pain, well, instead of just doping you up, which means you can't be on the line, you can't do duty, let's fix it. Let's find the medicine or what works for you. And like you said, the treatments are different for all different people. Some soldiers prefer EMDR. I've heard more from ex-military that they prefer EMDR. I did not personally like it.
Yeah, EMDR has been proven to be very beneficial for PTSD. Like it's very beneficial for PTSD, and that's why we see a lot of military going with it, because their main issue is the PTSD. And the thing about PTSD is that it's a developed mental health disease than it is an actual mental health disease that maybe you had or developed at a younger time. You're actually developing it at a later stage in life, and your brain's already done most of its development. And so when this new development happens, it makes it a little bit more difficult to rewire it because your brain's already set in its ways. Once it develops something and you're old enough, your brain thinks and you think a certain way. You're old enough, your brain's developed, it's good to go. It's not like you're this young person that, hey, this happened. Well, we can at least try to guide them in different ways, and they're a lot more receptive. When we're adults, it's very hard to be receptive, especially since when we're developed. I know how to live my life. I've been living my life this entire time. I'm going through this tragedy and this thing's happening and these crazy things are happening, but I should know how to fucking deal with this. Well, no, you don't. But, that's why you have to be very open. And I find it very interesting that when you do go through therapy, it's almost like the therapist try to get you back into thinking like a child, right? Like, it's okay that this thing makes you sad. That's it, right? Well, as adults, it's like, well, this thing makes me feel this way, but then I don't know why I feel this way because I have this. And then all these excuses come in between the path.
Yes.
Right? All these excuses and everything. The therapist is like, stop. This thing makes you sad. Just start there. Yeah, but I don't understand why it makes me sad because like I do this and then when I do that, and it's like, just stop. Think like a child. I did this. It makes me sad. You did this. I'm angry. I'm hungry. Give me food. Like it's very, very, very simple. Like, but as adults, we always we have these set paths that we think, and it makes it a lot harder to deal with them, especially when we figure out that there's something going on later on in life.
Well, and I think honestly, I really wish that just the communication portion of mental health were a required class, just as much as, say, ladders or vertical, forcible entry or vertical ventilation, because it took me almost losing my life to learn how to say, okay, I'm angry, but anger is a symptom. Why am I angry? Well, I'm frustrated. Okay, why am I frustrated? Because my needs are not being met. Okay, how do I meet my needs? And I had an incident at work the other day, and it didn't go the way I wanted it to go. There is a younger girl who was getting frustrated, and so she kind of bit my head off, and I'm an inappropriate giggler. So when people start ramping up, like I giggle. It's not that I find it funny. I just giggle. It happens. And usually anybody I know like that works with me, they know this. And so I giggled a little bit because she was in my face, and I was like, oh, and she was like, fuck you, and walks off. And I was like, we're going to talk about this. And so I waited, and I told her, because she's running around like Chicken Little. And I said, first of all, calm down, take a breath. And this is exactly how I said it to her. I said, you need to calm down, take a breath, rethink where you're going with this, and realize nobody's dying. So breathe, right? Well, the way that I spoke to her, which for me was very much paramedic, calm down, nobody's dying, breathe. She is not used to the environment. So I came across as threatening and intimidating, which I had to laugh because I was like, I'm like the least intimidating person on the planet because usually I'm a big goofball. Since my therapy and understanding that sometimes I was the toxic leader, I sat down and I thought, okay, how could I have done that better? Like I was trying to reassure her, but clearly that's not the message that she received. So what can I do better as a leader? So she didn't want to talk to me. I tried to approach her and say, hey, can I talk to you? And she just turned around and walked off. And I was like, okay. So I sat down and I got construction paper, and I am not an artsy craftsy person. And I cut out some little shapes and made her a little card and put her name on it. And I wrote on the inside, I think we had some miscommunication. I'm sorry for my part in this. I was trying to reassure you and let you know that I've got your back and it's going to be okay. Clearly, that's not the way it came off. I'd love to discuss this with you so that we don't have this problem again. And I closed it with, I'm always here to support you, giving you a hug. And then I put, even though you're mad at me, and sign my name. And she was eating her lunch and she was ignoring me. So I just put it in front of her and she looked at it and I said, I don't do arts and crafts very well, but I tried, and I walked out. And that is not normally how I would handle a situation, especially We weren't at the fire station. So if I were at the fire station, I'd usually just wait and then put like a monster in a candy bar with a little note, hey, can we talk? Because that usually works better. This I had to take a different approach, and I was kind of out of my element because at the fire station, we have rules and expectations. If there's an empty coffee pot, fill it. If there's trash on the floor, pick it up. If there's a job to do, do it. If I am barked at because somebody needs something done instantly, I don't take it personally because they're not yelling at me. They just need it done now. And I need to not question it, right? When you're in the civilian world, civilian medical world, those same rules don't apply.
Do not apply, not at all.
So, luckily I've been through all the counseling and recognizing that she responded inappropriately to a situation. So instead of getting mad and being like, well, she's just being a little bitch, right? Which is probably how I would have thought about it before. I took a second and I thought, what's gone on in her day that made her respond like that? Why was I the final straw? Like, why did she take what I said threatening? Like, why would she expect me to be threatening? Because I'm not. So I did finally get to talk to her. And she told me, she said, your card was really ugly. And I said, hey, I put a lot of effort into that card, Picasso, and she laughed. And I said, I sense that you've had a really, really bad day. And I added to that. And that was like not what I was trying to do. So how can you and I work together in the future to where you understand if I look at you and say, I got this, I'm not saying you don't have it. I'm not saying you can't do your job. I'm letting you know I have your back. And she goes, well, I'm not used to that. And I said, okay, well, now we're having good open conversation, right? And what I found out is that she is being bullied by this other person at work that I know openly is a bully. And I have complained several times about this. And so once again, I ended up in the manager's office and was like, this behavior is unacceptable. If you refuse to handle it because you are enabling it, I'm going to corporate. And they were like, well, you could lose your job. Okay. Fine, fire me. But you're allowing her to put that girl in tears, and that's emotional abuse. This is a hostile work environment. That is not okay. So I think what I will say about everything that I've gone through is I'm a much better advocate for my peers. And I feel like it's more my job to be the person to stand up and say, yes, there is going to be a level of badassery and smart mouths and hot tempers. There's a level, right? We all know this. Everybody's going to have their off day. If it is repeated abusive behavior to target those who are perceived to be weaker for the sake of targeting them, that's not okay. That should not be allowed to continue, whether you're at a civilian job or a fire station or in wildland or wherever. That is not okay. So I no longer feel threatened if managers want to say, well, you could lose your job over this. I want to look at them and be like, so could you. Okay. I don't allow myself to be bullied anymore. And regardless of whether, I don't let myself be pushed into tolerating a bad situation because I'm going to be threatened with my job. That there's no paycheck that is worth my mental health. There is no paycheck that is worth anybody else's mental health.
Oh, you fucking hit the nail on the head as soon as you said that.
Yep.
I quickly realized, and I wish people would, especially within their service, would realize this. We're so concerned of losing our position, of losing the seat on the truck, or the badge, whatever the case may be. But I can tell you what, if your mental health is to the point where you are finding yourself repeatedly thinking of quote unquote disappearing, that job does nothing. That job is nothing. If you're not the best version for yourself, you're not giving the best version of yourself to the job anyway, right? You're not doing the best job you can be doing anyway. So why have this mentality and why have this idea that the job is the savior if the job is actually contributing to the stress?
Exactly.
And
after they fired me, after I was terminated, I almost died. Nobody at the station was allowed to contact me. And then after I was terminated, I think I still talked to 3 people from the station. They filled my job within a week. I think that was the biggest lesson in there is no badge, there is no shield, there is no job shirt that is ever worth me going through that ever again. because they certainly did not give two shits about me. And the worst part is had I died, knowing the station I was at the time, there would have been no big funeral. I would not have died a hero. It would have been quiet, pushed under the table, and nobody would have talked about it. Because when my friend Ethan died, and sadly he did take his own life, we did do a big funeral and we had a lot of fire apparatus come. But the old chief I had said, I'll send one apparatus, but I don't want to glorify his death because I don't want people to think it's okay. We're not glorifying their deaths. We're bringing awareness that this is a problem and it needs to be handled. And sweeping it under the rug and pretending it doesn't happen isn't fixing anything.
Fuck that chief. Look, here's the thing. If anybody out there that's in a leadership role, an admin, whatever the case you may want to be, start fucking researching the numbers. In 2019 alone, more firefighters died via suicide than they did in the line of duty. In 2019.
Yep.
That 22 a day, it's not going down.
Mm-mm.
Mental health is quickly becoming the number one killer of civil service members. It is. Within the fire service, cancer is still number one. But within the civil service, mental health in itself is starting to quickly become the number one killer and debilitator of civil service members. We are not taking it seriously enough.
No.
We're not. And there's a lot of excuses why. And some of them make sense. Mental health research and mental health studies and treatments they're still fairly new. I get it. I understand that. But I don't think that's exactly the thing that needs to change here. I don't think the mental health research and the mental health treatment needs to catch up with the times. No. It's our mindset within the job that needs to catch up with the times. It's our mindset of not allowing ourselves to express what's going on. Look, I have depression. I have depression, anxiety, PTSD. I can still do the job just as good as the guy next to me, if not better at times. And I'm still battling depression. Just because you have a diagnosis does not mean you are the diagnosis. 100%. Just because I have depression does not mean I am a depressed person. It just means it is an illness that I manage, just like diabetes.
Yes, 100%. And so I went to a job interview for a station and they said, name something difficult you went through and how you dealt with it. And I said, this is going to be the most unique answer you've ever received. I guarantee it. And I was very honest about my suicide attempt and all the therapy I went through. And now me working to advocate for more mental health, better support, and better acceptance in fire stations, and acceptance of, can we create an environment where if you're a sober firefighter, that's okay? Like, invite them anyway. Invite them to your party and stop asking them why they don't drink. It's not your business. They don't need to tell you. For some people, it's a very personal thing. So, I have a firefighter I work with. He is sober as well. And we were standing there and one of the new probies said, oh, how come you guys don't drink? And, the other firefighter went, well, and I said, okay, time out. That's a personal question. I said, a lot of people don't want to answer that question. I said, I will be perfectly honest with why I don't drink. And I said, I don't drink now because I turned into a crying asshole that, wanted to throw hands and fight the world. And then I almost killed myself. I said, so for me, it's a lesson in, if I need to deal with it, I don't need to be doing it drunk. And I said, do I wake up every day and want to drink? No. I said, is my definition of alcoholic the same as somebody else's? Absolutely not. I said, but I consider if you tried to kill yourself when you were drunk, you probably shouldn't drink anymore. And the probie just went, oh. And I said, now, the reason why he doesn't drink, he doesn't have to tell you. And it's not really your business. I said, so if somebody tells you, they don't drink, just say, okay, that should be your answer. Because in the fire service, and I will say, I've run into more opposition with me being sober than me talking about a suicide attempt, which it's acceptable that I can say I almost killed myself. And they're like, yeah, but you didn't. Cool. Or how did you do it? That was the other one. Everybody's like, ooh, how did you do it? Like, why are we fascinated with this? Why aren't we more concerned that it, almost happened? Not that, and I'm not looking for, I don't need sympathy because like I said, it was the most tragic thing that happened in my life, but ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me. And I survived for a reason, and I rock that every day because I'm going to do the best I can to support more people like me. But what's interesting is I had to get into an argument with somebody. I was at a firefighter function, and they were like, "Oh, hey, I got you beer." And I was like, "Thanks, man, but do they have Diet Pepsi? I really don't drink." And he goes, "It's just a beer." And he goes, "What are you worried about your girlish figure?" And I said, "You want a cigarette?" And he's like, "No, I don't fucking smoke." And I was like, "Why don't you smoke?" And he goes, "Because I don't smoke." And I leaned in and I went, "I don't drink." Like, so why is it? And I think this is the next stage on what I really, really want to start getting out there is, why is it more acceptable to, like, if a firefighter smokes, oh my God, they can't smoke. Like, no, you can't smoke and be a firefighter. I'm like, well, I'm gonna die of cancer anyway. I don't drink anymore. Something has to kill me eventually, right? So like, or I'm gonna outlive all my friends. But if I were to smoke a cigarette, everybody's like, oh my God, you're smoking, right? But if I say I don't want a beer, why don't you want a beer? Why don't you drink? It's just one beer. We're only gonna have a couple. Why not? Like, I get more shit for being sober than for anything else. And so that's the next thing that I really want to start tackling in fire stations is, can we make that more acceptable in our culture? It doesn't mean that they don't want to have fun. It doesn't mean that they're a stick in the mud. It means maybe they don't want to talk about it. It's none of your damn business. And how about we treat them nicely and kindly and include them anyway?
I think that's very on par with, we get the question all the time, especially from the general public more often than not, what's the worst thing you've ever seen? And
yeah.
I have no problem answering that question, but before I do, I always let them know. I was like, I'll answer that question, but I'm going to tell you what that means to me. You're going to ask me to relive a time where it literally gives me nightmares. The fact that you even asked me that question already put the images in my head. And it's things that it's a situation that literally I've cried about, I've lost sleep about, I've probably, it hit my depression. I'll answer it. I'll let you know. But that's what that question means to me. You still want to know the answer? And I've had responses with, "Oh man, sorry, no, I didn't know." And I get it. They're asking out of curiosity, and
I think
they're
it's
not
about
trying.
education.
Yeah, and that's why I use that moment to educate them what that question means to a lot of civil service members. Now, what's the funniest thing you've ever seen? What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen? What's the craziest thing that's happened? Those are completely different questions than what's the worst thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
You got to be very careful with your words and the questions that you ask. It's the same thing. Why don't you drink? Well, that's none of your fucking business, for one. And two, the fact that you asked me that now has me replaying all the reasons why I don't drink in my head. And those are things that I'm battling with. Thank you for asking me the question, asshole. But, I think we have to use that time to educate the ignorance of what that means to somebody that did have an issue with alcohol or any type of addiction. And, you said this a couple of times, that your definition of being an addict to alcohol might not line up with everybody else's. Here's the thing. There is no one definition.
Right.
There's no one definition. Is there a general definition? Sure. Is there a general idea of what that means? Sure. But there is no one set in stone way. So if you believe that alcohol was an addiction for you to handle stress, that's what it was.
Right.
It was something you used to overcome something that could have been dealt with in a different situation. It became a negative.
Right.
Right.
Well,
any addiction, anything that you do, once it starts affecting your life in a negative way, that is now a negative addiction. Constantly going to the gym to the point where your relationships are struggling, your body's starting to get torn down. Like, that's a negative addiction. Yes, you trying to do it because it helps you release stress and all this other stuff. But once it starts affecting you in a negative manner, that you have to sit back and be like, okay, it's affecting me in a negative manner now. There's something wrong.
Right. And honestly, it's so funny because when I was first, going to alcohol classes and everything else, and I did not like AA. And it's funny how going to therapy for support for an addiction, it's amazing how there are so many different kind of classes out there. So I got referred to a female only AA class. I have never wanted to drink more in my life than when I came out of that class. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but I remember telling my counselor.
Well, not for you. It wasn't a good idea for you.
No, I told him, I said, I get that because I'm a female, you thought that that would be a safer space for me, or that that would be better for me. And I said, and I'm sure for some women it is. And I said, but let's consider the fact that I am a female that chose to work in a male dominated society. I do a non-traditional job for a living, and I don't have very many female friends. And you just threw me in the Chatty Cathy Shark Tank where everybody was crying and bitching about their husbands. And I said, I can't do that. And he goes, okay, let's try something else. I don't know what that was, but all of them needed Ativan and a sandwich. And he was like, okay. And I said, I can't go back to that. And he was like, all right. So then that's when we found a first responder group for me. That was really excellent, you know, because it's more people that get it. They get what I've been through. They, you know,
it's more relatable.
Similar. Yeah. And it's funny because, like, are there many women in there? No, most weeks I'm the only one. But then again, that's what I'm used to, you know.
You hit on something that I actually have a story about, and that's finding a therapist or counselor that understands civil service members, right? When I first started realizing, hey, I need to start getting some help, it was getting bad. Like, I had my attempt, and I realized, okay, I need to start talking to somebody. This is bad. The first therapist that I had was a normal therapist, general population therapist, right? A civilian therapist. And I'm serious, 15 minutes in, she was crying. 15 minutes in of me sharing my story, she was crying. But I do have to give her credit in that she straight up said, she's like, look, you might be a little bit more than what I can handle. You might be, your thought process and the way you think about things, you have an answer for everything, and you might just be a little bit more than I'm prepared to be able to help you. And I respected the fact that she said that. That's a good therapist. That's a good therapist. That's a therapist that recognizes there's limitations to what she can do, and then was like, let me help find you somebody that specializes in dealing with like military and first responders. And it took, I think, 2 other therapists, and then I got with my my union here at the fire department, and the union president got me in touch with somebody that works with civil service members, specifically firefighters and stuff. And from that point on, it was working, because they understood the thought processes, they related to it, they studied how we think about things and what our minds get molded into being in the job that we do, and it helped a lot. And I think what's going on, and that's why I love like the Heroes Network. If you're a part of the IAFF, they have the Center of Excellence. Those things and those places are amazing because they are directed towards first responders and civil service members, which is something that we need specifically. You can't just throw us to any therapist and expect it to work out. The story of you and your buddy, just that poor, dog trying to get you to do yoga and Zen and, but then somebody who understood your line of thinking pulled you off to the side and put you in your place like that, Oh,
she did.
But it took somebody understanding our mindset and how we are to be able to do that. So I really do think there needs to be more of those facilities and more of these type of people that understand that mindset for the civil service members. I'm not saying that a normal therapist can't help us. I'm sure they can. I'm sure there's some that probably would be able to do a great job helping us. But I have noticed, and you're not the first story that I've heard, that when talking to a therapist that understands the job, they tend to do a hell of a lot better with the therapy and be way more receptive to how it is presented to them.
Well, and I'm sure you can relate to this. So I love Timothy O'Leary, right? And I love Rescue Me. There have been some, especially in the earlier seasons, there were some very relatable, hysterical things that happened. And it was funny because you saying that your therapist was crying by the end of it, I feel like I accidentally broke a counselor, and I came home and my husband was like, "Are you good?" And I said, "I think I just put my counselor in therapy." And he was like, "Way to go, killer."
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I didn't mean to. It's just, look, we think differently. It's as simple as that. Our mindset and the way we look at the world is different. I saw something on social media, of all things, that it kind of blew my mind when I heard it, and I was like, well, she's absolutely fucking correct when you think about it, is that people within the first responder realm, in the civil service realm, are selective psychopaths, right? We know when to turn off our empathy, not our sympathy, our empathy. We know when to turn off our empathy and when to turn it back on. Some of us turn off our empathy and then we come home and forget to turn it back on, and that's when a bunch of bad things happen. Bad juju happens at home, fights and everything. But on the job, we turn off our empathy, because if our empathy was there, we wouldn't be able to do the job. It's as simple as that. We'd be too affected by the things that we see and we do. And, we turn off the empathy and then it turns into a job. That person is no longer Susan or Karen. That person is patient 1, patient 2. These are the things that are wrong with them. This is what we're going to do to fix that. Get it gone. Now, our sympathy is there. We understand that they're hurting. We understand that they're scared. We understand that the sympathy's there, but the empathy's gone. Because if we felt and put ourselves in that position, like what you do when you're empathetic to somebody, you would be just as scared as they are. You would be just as afraid as they are, and you wouldn't be able to do the job. So we're like selective psychopaths in that. That's what molds our brains doing this job without even realizing it. It's a survival technique, and it's to get the job done technique. So we need to talk to people that understand that when we start working on our own personal mental health, because that aspect of our job is actually affecting our mental health when we go home. We're not learning how to find that middle ground. We get so developed in this there's a problem, fix it idea that the empathy goes out the door with anybody else in our lives. And I'm sympathetic. Look, I get it. You're upset. Let's fix the problem. Well, no, it's more than just you not taking out the trash. It's like, I'm noticing you're lazy. I'm noticing that you're not there anymore. I'm noticing that you're a little bit more distant. It's like, I'm here. I'm sitting right here. You said I was distant, so I came and sat next to you, next to the couch. I didn't want to be here, but you said I was distant, so I'm here. Problem fixed, right? No, it's not like that. There's more than just the dishes aren't done. There's this empathy. The life stress that people have outside of the job is not the same as the life stress inside the job. And it's hard for us to correlate those two. Like, how can you be upset that the laundry's not done? I just got done pumping on a 6-year-old's chest. Right. I mean, but it's unfair to those people that don't understand that stress.
Well, and I think, especially with my situation, and, my husband went through his own thing. There was a period there while I was trying to get my shit together, my husband was falling apart, and I had to, and it was actually just before my attempt, we went through me talking him out of pulling a weapon out of his mouth, and him struggling with alcoholism. And I mean, it was just, and he's retired Air Force and was a flight medic and combat medic and all the things. And you want to talk about two people who just together, like, everything just went right. But through that and going to therapy, it's interesting that now when we communicate, it's funny, I'll come home and I'll have the look and I'll sit down and he'll go snack first, because if I'm hungry, nothing gets dealt with. Like,
you're hangry.
It's beyond. Well, it's because I do the bodybuilding stuff. I eat. I'm on toddler time every hour and a half. Like, I've actually been sitting here and like munching and drinking my protein shake. Like, there's always food, and the joke is always like, if I haven't eaten, feed me before any important decisions, because it's just terrible, But we now have the understanding that when we come home, and he still works as a medic, as do I. If it's been that kind of a day, the first thing we say is, hey, I need to talk. The spouse's response is, are you talking to vent, or should I take notes to problem solve? That distinction has been a lifesaver.
Yes. I love that you said that. And that goes for anybody. That goes for anybody. When somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, I need to talk, or you notice that there's a problem, or they're struggling, and they're like, hey, yeah, this is going on, or they just start talking. We get this a lot. A lot of us, actually, first responders do this all the time. We just start word vomiting everything. Yeah, we just start word vomiting everything and just letting it all out. It's okay for the person receiving that to be like, hey, hold on, just 1 second. Is this you want my help in fixing, or are you just needing somebody to listen to? Because too often when we start looking for help or when we start venting, especially when we do it to somebody that cares about us, the automatic response for somebody that cares about us is they're hurting. Let me try helping. And sometimes the help or getting that feedback, well, why don't you do this? Or how about this? And how about that? And it's like, no, you're not listening. You're not listening. Just listen to what I'm saying. And we're like, I am listening. I'm just trying to help you out here. And it's like, okay, that's where the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want solutions. I just need you to listen. Or, hey, I have this problem. Could you help me out figuring this out? It's okay for the person receiving to ask that, hey, is this, you just want me to listen and be here, or are you wanting some advice? Like, it's okay to clear that up, because once you clear that up, the conversation goes the way that the person word vomiting feels like they need at the time, or that's what they want at the time, and it doesn't make the situation worse.
No, and it's super awesome. Like, I have a medic that, he's been a medic much longer than I am. I implicitly trust him, and there will be times where I'll hit him up and be like, you awake? Because he doesn't sleep. And so I know he's a night owl like me. And he'll be like, yeah. So I'll call him and I'm like, hey, let's play Reddit. And he's like, okay, who's the asshole? And I'm like, yeah, am I the asshole? And so I'll go through like whatever it is I'm dealing with. And what I love about him is he's honest either way. And there have been times where he's like, yeah, you're the asshole. And I'm like, oh, now I feel bad. And he's like, all right, but here's how you can go back and fix it. Or he'll be like, no, you're not the asshole. You've got your boundaries, stand up for yourself and don't feel bad about it. I'm like, okay. And it's funny, but whenever I call him, I'm like, can we play Reddit game? He knows I'm asking, am I the asshole or are they the asshole? Like, because it's very possible I am being the asshole. But you got to have those friends that you can trust to implicitly, they'll tell you the truth, no matter what, but they do it in a loving manner. Like, yes, you're the asshole, but we still love you.
Right. And it's good to have those type of people. But again, it's the lack of knowing how to be that person. Right. And so talking about it and putting it out there and letting people know, and even the person that starts word vomiting can stop themselves and be like, hey, by the way, I just need somebody to hear what's going on right now. Or, hey, I'm looking for this specific thing from what I'm trying to say. It could be on both of you at the same time. Now, when we're going through the stress and we're going through that word vomit situation, sometimes we're not thinking about that because we're just like, fuck it, I need to say this and I'm going to say it now because this is going on. And we don't think, what are we doing to the person that's receiving this? We don't think that far ahead, or that, because the issue's the issue and fuck everything else. But it's on a little bit of everybody in those type of scenarios to, like you said before, open the communication. It's okay to stop somebody in the middle of what they're saying, be like, hey, is this for this or is this for that? Like, let's clear this up first, because I don't want to make this situation worse. And a lot of the times when people try to help us, especially ones that care about us, we feel like they're not listening because they're too busy trying to help instead of just listening. And then other times we're telling them all this stuff and they're not saying anything. And you're like, well, don't you have anything to say? Do you have any advice? Like, and they're like, well, I thought you just needed somebody to listen. I'm sorry. You put them in a rock and a hard space,
Right. I think managing expectations is a big one. I think the funniest moment I ever had was I had a partner, we had gotten our asses handed to us, and he came in and I was working on reports, and I'm sitting there eating Twizzlers, and he comes in and he just like throws his water bottle and just starts on this tirade. And I'm just sitting there watching him like, don't make any sudden movements, right? And he gets done and he goes, right? And I just went, Twizzler? And he goes, yes. And took it and sat down, and I'm like, okay, good chat.
Yeah, at that point, you made the right decision, right? It was just like, he just needed to vent. But could you imagine if you would have been like, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about this? How pissed off, how much more? He would have lost his shit. But when it comes to those type of things, sometimes it depends on who you're working with, and you kind of get the idea.
I think it's so funny because when you have a partner that you work with, whether you're in PD or fire or EMS, and God love you if you're in EMS and you're on an ambulance all the time, like staged with your human all the time, you guys will actually end up closer than any family or any spouse, because not only do you have to put up with everybody's BS, but you hear all about their life and you've seen their worst moments firsthand and you've lived them with them. So if you don't get along with them, or if you haven't figured out how to communicate with them, you're going to hate your life. and it's going to be a really miserable existence. So I always try and make sure whoever I'm working with, that I can be like, hey, this isn't, especially if they're new, I can be like, hey, I know I appear high strung. I know I appear that I'm not paying attention to you. And I love to laugh and I love to giggle. Rest assured, when the shit hits the fan, I'm paying attention. I'm watching everything. I will have your back. I just can't be serious 100% of the time because life's too short. And I find that when I start off a working relationship by explaining that, and then I say, now, what are your expectations of me? So that way we can discuss how we're going to meet each other's expectations. Number one, people don't expect honesty like that. So they're a little bit taken aback. And number two, it opens the door for them to be like, well, I'm not a morning person. I don't really like chit chat. And I don't want to talk about anything private. Cool. Then, like if they're not talking to you, it's not because they don't like you. It's because they don't talk, right? Don't take it personally.
There's an overwhelming theme to this entire conversation that we've been having. Communication. Mm-hmm. Communication. Not only with the people in your life and those that surround yourself with, but the communication you have with yourself. Finding out that, hey, I need to sit back and relax and have this deep conversation with myself now. Yeah, there's something wrong. Yes, there's something going on. Yes, this is bothering me. Being aware that those conversations are actually healthy to have. If you need to stare at yourself in the mirror and do it, that's okay. You're not crazy. People do it all the fucking time to kind of work through shit. It's okay. Communication with yourself and with the people that you surround yourself with, it is key to figuring out your own mental health. Well, it really is.
It is. And don't base your mental health on the climate that you're in. And what I mean by that is, I was suffering because the climate was don't talk about it, don't mention it, don't go to the peer support because they're going to talk shit about you behind your back. Don't go see help because like if it gets found out, then that'll be punitive. And if that's what you're dealing with, the hardest conversation I had with myself was after I was terminated and I looked at all the fire stuff on my walls. The hardest conversation I had was, what am I if I'm not a firefighter? I spent so many years that not only was my identity wrapped up in the job, I could no longer tell the difference between the two. And so it felt like if I'm not a firefighter, I'm not anything, right? Don't be afraid to step away from something toxic because it won't look the same. Now I'm still in fire. I still drive fire engines. I still run calls. I do other things too. I've branched out and added to my life. Like I said, my future doesn't look anything like I had it all mapped out in my perfect little agenda and my timeline of bugles, right? It's better. But I think the hardest conversation we're going to have with ourselves is, what if moving forward and being healthy means walking away from your badge or your rank or your job? Would you rather be alive or would you rather be buried with the flag? Because in some instances, that's the choice you're making. And like I said, no paycheck is worth your mental health.
No, it's not. And you made a very good point. And people do this all the time. They do it with other people. They do it with things. They do it with careers. They put their self-worth in something else other than themselves, right? We hear it most prevalently in relationships, right? I can't live without you. I need you. And if we're not together, then I'm like, if they don't like me, then I'm just a piece of shit. And, this and that and this. And it's like, well, no. You actually get to decide whether or not you're a piece of shit or not. And if that person just doesn't want you in their life anymore, they don't want you in your life anymore. And you can still be okay with who you are. People liking you does not define the person that you can be. The job that you have does not define who you are. It defines what you do, but it does not define who you are. I think within the civil service realm, it is a thing. We define ourselves by the job. I am a firefighter, therefore I have to be this way. And no, that's not the way life works. You're a firefighter because that's what you do. You are you because you choose the things that you want.
Right.
There's a huge difference here. Huge difference. We need to stop putting our self-worth in other people and things because, one, people are fleeting. They make mistakes. They will upset you at some point in time, but that doesn't mean anything about you. That doesn't say anything about you specifically. Things get old. They break. You might have to replace them, no matter how many times you try to repair them. And if you put your self-worth into that brand new car that just got fucking totaled,
Yep.
oh man, I worked so hard for that, and now it's just gone. My life's nothing. I did all that work for nothing. Okay, that doesn't say anything about who you are. It's this idea that we have to put some type of self-worth and self-acknowledgement or whatever the case may be into something or someone else that blows my mind. And it blows my mind now. At the time when I was going through my shit, if, I was a problem with the wife or I was having a fight with a friend, it was always like, okay, so what am I doing wrong? What's my fault? Blah, blah, blah. If they're mad at me, I'm just a horrible person. And not realizing the fact that the actual issue is I am who I am. And I need to find people that can accept that. Now, can I change my perspective on things? Can I look at things differently? Absolutely. But that's going to also take me being open-minded to communication, to hearing different ideas. And once you actually evaluate those and take them into play, then make your decision instead of being so fucking hard-headed in the my way's the only way, my way or the highway type idea. Then you can be open to those things. But until you're okay with who you are first, you're not going to be able to do anything like that. Nothing.
Oh, 100%. I think the best advice my fire sister, Tiffany, gave to me, I was at her house. And so we were sitting there and just talking. And it was so funny because I was crying to her. And I was like, what do I do if I don't do firefighting? Like, what am I going to do with my life? And she was like, I don't understand why you're still hanging in there. She's like, it's making you sick. You almost died. You're miserable. And I looked at her and I said, I don't see how you could walk away from it. And she goes, because I didn't want to be right where you are right now. And I just stared at her. And she goes, so which one of us was the smart one? And I was like, that hurts a little bit, but you're kind of right, And I told her, I was like, you're kind of a dick. And she goes, but I love you. And I was like, I get it. Because I never understood how she could put so much time and effort into it and walk away from it. Because I was like, if you walk away, you're letting them win. And she said, no, I'm winning. And we never saw eye to eye on that until it took them terminating me for me to open my eyes and be like, oh, hold up. Like, I was losing the whole time, even though I was hanging on for dear life and destroying everything about my life, my relationships, my mental health, everything else. When she said that, she said, I won. They didn't win shit. I won. And I looked at her and I was like, oh, I get it. And I'm so blessed now that the crews and everybody that I work with, not only are they supportive, but whenever they hear somebody having a hard time, they're like, hey, you should call our girl Lo. Like, she's got a super open mind about it and she's got a lot of contacts, And I don't ever tell them my story unless they ask. I always say, what you going through? And they'll be like, oh, it's stupid. And I'm like, so tell me a stupid story. I got time. I don't ever judge. But honestly, I think that was the thing that opened my eyes the widest was when I was like, you let them win. And she goes, no, I won. And I was like, ooh. I always thought that she was the weaker one of us because she quit, because they treated her like crap and they ran her off. And I'm like, you let them run you off. You let them do to you what they've done to every other female firefighter. And she was like, I won. I won my sanity. I won my life. I won my health. And I was like, I think you're the only one that was looking at this at the right perspective.
Perspective. That's it.
Yep.
That's the word. Perspective.
Yep.
Lo, I really do appreciate everything that you have shared. And, we didn't get into the whole idea of being a female firefighter and male dominated. And we can do that on another podcast, but I was actually really taken back by your understanding and your knowledge and your perspective on the whole mental health aspect of everything. And of course, your story and how you use that to grow. And it's an amazing story that I believe a lot of the people that are listening are going to be able to relate to. Not only, like, they don't have to have gone through what you went through to relate to it. It can be anything that is just driving them crazy, and you found a way to turn it into something more than what it was, right? It's more than just your attempt. It was more than just you using alcohol as a crutch. You've turned it into something more than. It's no longer just what it was. Because what it was using alcohol, which led to your suicide attempt.
Right.
It's now more than that. It's a story for motivation. It's a story for your own remembrance of where you don't want to be again. And it's something that I believe when we tell these kind of stories and we share these stories can help others with what they're going through. When they feel like they're going through the shit, that's all it is the shit. They don't see what it can be later on. They don't see what they can turn it into at that moment.
And I think we have too many people say, I've been there. No, I haven't been where you are. I haven't. I've walked through my own personal hell and I came out on the other side. So I don't know what you're going through, or I don't know what anybody else is going through, but I can give you a hand to hold and a shoulder to lean on, and I can walk with you. That's the best I can offer you, because it sucks to go through it alone.
Well, it does. It does. And I've always said this, it's the actions that got us to the emotions we're having are unique to us, right? I never say, I know what you're going through. I never say, I completely understand because I went through A, B, C, D, whatever. For me, it's, I hear you. I hear what you went through. I hear the struggle you had from what you went through. Now, my story is not the same, but the emotions I had from what I went through, the emotions are the same. The emotions are sad. The emotions where I hated myself, the emotions where I felt like nothing. What got me there and what got you there are unique to us, but the emotions and the outcome from those actions, that's something we can relate on. I obviously can't relate and know exactly what you're thinking and feeling going through exactly what you did, but I know the outcome. I know what that feels like.
Yep. Well, in the aftermath, I think there was a lot of healing that had to be done afterwards because, like I said, my captain and I that are good friends, I was his worst call. I ended up being his worst call. And that breaks my heart to this day that I wounded him and gave him those bad memories, that bad flashback. So, we worked on it and talked about it and everything. And to end everything on a light note, just because this is the kind of human I am, it was about almost a year after the incident at my new station, joking around. Everybody knows, everybody's aware except for the new probies because we don't talk about it unless somebody's having an issue. And then I will always be 100% transparent. It's just, I don't offer it to people who don't want to know. Right.
Right.
But we were teaching an IV class and this lends to dark humor and finally getting to a place of healing. And so I'm teaching IVs and I'm helping one of the girls get an IV. And I'm like, you can go over this vein or this vein. And God love her. She looks at me and she goes, so you're really good at IVs? And I said, well, yeah, all redheads are vampires. And she goes, can you do one on yourself? And I said, like a champ. My chief was standing behind me, pops me on the back of the head, and he goes, too soon, and keeps walking. And I was like, I laughed, and I was like, but am I wrong? And chief's like, no, not funny. And I'm like, it's a little funny.
It's a little funny. It's a little funny. You're not allowing the circumstance to have the power it used to have. Right. But when you make jokes like that, you're not allowing what happened to have the power it used to have. You're starting to chip away at the power that when you thought about stuff like that, or when somebody said something like that, you'd be like, oh man, that's taking me to a place where I didn't want to remember. But now you're joking about it. Right. You're not giving it that power it used to have, which is actually very healthy thing to do. It was very healthy. It's a very healthy thing to do.
My therapist was like, it probably was too soon. And I'm like, no, I get that. I said, but it was an honest answer to her question, But I guess she ended up asking one of my other buddies, like, why did everybody respond like that? And he was like, you should ask Lo. She'll tell you, but you should ask her.
Yeah.
But it was just funny because I was like, yes, I am.
See, I find that funny. I
think it's hysterical.
Yeah, so do I.
we had a tactical EMS class not too long ago. I guess it was before summer, and they one of the instructors was like, "You're going to learn how to do combat IVs on yourself," and my good buddy was like, "Except Lo, she already knows."
And that's actually healing for them too. Believe it or not. And if you're good with it, if you're okay with it, that's healing for them. That's allowing them to not allow the idea that a friend of theirs and somebody they cared about went through such a hard time that now that they can joke about it, that's healing for them too. And as long as you're okay with it,
I think the final part of healing is I can laugh at it now. I mean, nothing about it, and I say this with an open heart, nothing about what happened was funny at the time.
Absolutely not.
Nothing about it. I scarred innocent humans. I gave them PTSD. There are times now, if I start to get a little quiet, that they watch me, that they probably watch me a little more than they need to. And I have to reassure them, hey, I'm okay. But I do think you get to a place where, with your friends, you can be like, no, I'm good. We can joke about this a little bit. And I gave a lecture on mental health and talking about first responders. And I laughingly said, because my cap was there and he was speaking on it, being on the other side, leadership, when you have a firefighter that does that, when they're your friend, like, how do you handle that? Because I've picked his brain numerous times to write articles and stuff. And I think it gets to a point where you have to laugh at it a little bit, because you have to have the freedom. In our line of work, we have the dark humor as a level of protection, but it's also a way to vent it, right? And if you can't look back and at least find one little nugget of positivity, then you're still hurting from it and you're not healing. And so I made the joke. I said, statistically speaking, women usually, they don't usually do anything to scar their faces or their bodies. It's traditionally not gunshots or knives or anything like that.
Yeah, it's traditionally poison. Less violent. Yes.
Yes, less violent means. And then I said, so, I was curious when I was stuck in a hospital and, wanted to read books. I asked for, statistics on suicide and how women commit suicide. And I said, and shockingly, in Colorado, I'm the only one who put an IV in my arm. And I said, so I felt like I should get a cookie for originality. And I was laughing. And I was like, or a gold star, or like maybe #1 IV giver. And of course, my friends are looking at me like, not funny, Lo. And I'm like, it's a little funny.
It's a little funny. I'm not allowing it to give the power it had over me anymore. That's a good thing. So I told
them, I said, at the end of the day, the lesson is be yourself. If my calling in life is to be a firefighter paramedic that goes to gymnastics and still tumbles and does weightlifting competitions, but is the first one that will quote Pulp Fiction to you, like when somebody orders a milkshake, be like, what? It's just little milk, little ice cream, like, better be good for a $5 shake, right? Like if that is my role in this lifetime, I'm going to own my role, because guess what? There's not another firefighter that's me. I'm the only one.
I think it's more than that. You're the only you, period.
Exactly. And I think too many people try to be everybody else. I spent too many years trying to be firefighters that I was never going to be. I'm never going to be 6'2". I'm never going to be able to hit the Kaiser sled in 5 hits. Not going to happen. Like 12 is my lowest number, and I'm proud of that. But there are just things that it's okay to say, I'm never going to be that, but I'm going to be me. And there's something really wonderful about me. And I think if more of us could accept that, and even in our broken parts say, yeah, that needs a little work, but it's going to be so much better when I fix it. You know what I mean? And Absolutely. It's okay. The process of fixing it is going to make me 100 times better than I ever was. So it's okay. It's going to be okay.
Absolutely. Just got to keep going. Got to keep plugging away. Well, I really do appreciate everything that you have shared and your perspective on everything. I think we can have an even more deep conversation. And if there's anything that I can do to help, or if you want my perspective on my story and everything else, I'm more than willing to share it. Obviously this podcast is about you, so I only share small little tidbits, but I would love to sit and talk with you more about this at a later time.
I would love that. Yeah. And also I'm going to keep an eye on your events, because I definitely want to volunteer and help.
Okay.
I know that you guys don't have much going on in Colorado, but we've got venues and avenues. I'd love for us to be able to put something together to branch you guys out to Colorado and
Oh, that would be
really do some
amazing.
fundraising and helping.
Yeah, that would be amazing. The IFF Fallen Firefighter Memorial that happens in September every year.
Yeah, it got canceled this year.
Yeah, it got canceled, whole COVID thing. Once it starts going back up again, I'm going to try to get the foundation out there and put a tent out there and start spreading. Go ahead.
There are several people we'd love to come and help and volunteer for you and bring awareness. And, our mantra, like, they said we had to write a goal statement, SMART goals. And I was like, I don't want to bury a friend this year. That's my goal. I don't want to bury anybody this year.
Yeah.
At least not by their own hand. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So we will definitely, especially, do what we can to support you guys. And it's very close and dear to my heart what you guys do. So anything I can do to help as well, I'm all in.
Hell yeah. The more hands make lighter work. And
Absolutely.
I'll take all the help we can get, especially since we are a nationwide nonprofit. So if we can get help in Colorado and Florida and New York, wherever, I'll take it all. I usually close the show with about 3 questions that stems another 10, 15-minute conversation or 5-minute conversation. Doesn't matter. No right or wrong answers. Just kind of gives us a chance to get that final thing that we want to say. My first question is, say we are on a podcast, but you're hosting the podcast. You're the host and you're interviewing yourself though. What's the one question you would have liked to have been asked and or piece of information that maybe you would want to share that we didn't get to hit on too much?
Here's a good one. Why don't we talk more about imposter syndrome and how it affects firefighters and everybody mentally? It's more specific to, I think, females suffer from it more than males. Nobody ever talks about it.
So let's talk about it a little bit. Explain what imposter syndrome is.
So imposter syndrome, in the best layman way that I can explain it, is when you have somebody who is, high achieving, they do well in their job, they're in a job field that maybe not everybody does. So female firefighters say, it's when you can't accept that you're succeeding and you have a chip on your shoulder, that you have to be the best. You have to do better than everybody else. You have to prove yourself on a daily basis because you don't feel worthy of the achievements you've already achieved. In my specific case, it was constantly being told I needed to prove I was an asset, not a liability. Even though I had more certifications than my peers, go to more classes, train harder, be in the gym, work harder, it was the constant, I have to be an asset, not a liability. And I never once stopped and realized that just doing the job was proving myself, right? Showing up, doing the job, having an all-in attitude. That's how you prove yourself. For me, it was do more hours, do more truck checks, always do more. And I was wearing myself out mentally. And imposter syndrome, you never feel good enough, no matter what you do. And it's this horrible chip on your shoulder that you carry, that no matter what you do, you feel not good enough. It is not specific to females. It did start making headlines with female firefighters and police because they started noticing it more and were diagnosing it more. I identify with it personally because after being told for years, you have to prove you're good enough to be here, they never said that to my male counterparts. So I always felt because I was a female, I had to work 3 times harder, be more badass than the guys, get better test scores. And honestly, what it did is it really hurt my interpersonal relationships at the fire station because everybody thought that I was gunning for their job or was trying to show them up, when all I was doing was I just wanted to be treated equal. So it was so damaging on so many levels.
Right. So it's like the imposter syndrome is actually put on yourself, where you're not recognizing, instead of recognizing the fact that you have achieved, you still think that you are an unachiever, underachiever. Yes. And so that imposter part is the underachiever part.
Right. You feel like you're an imposter, like, you're a fire medic, but you don't feel like you're good enough to do the job. So you constantly work harder, constantly second guess yourself, even though you've done all the things, you've passed all the tests, you've made it through your FI, you've done every stage you needed to do, but you still don't feel good enough. And it goes to a lot of careers, but that's my experience with it specifically. And I wish that would have been talked about once in my entire career, because the only time I heard it in 10 years of being a firefighter was in therapy after my attempt.
Yeah. And I think you're doing something right now that is starting to change that dialogue within
Right.
the civil service and what we talk about. Because I remember going through Fire Academy. This was the mental health talk. You're going to see some shit in this line of work that might affect you. Talk to somebody. All right. Now on pump equations, it's like, okay, cool. Like that was it. That was it. And I do agree with you that there needs to be at least a day or two in the curriculum that expresses what this job can actually do to you on a mental health level, because there is not enough information, especially with new recruits coming into the job, that they get into a job, they get hired, they get the certification, get hired, and then I can't tell you how many people have been like, oh shit, yeah, maybe this isn't for me.
Right.
And it took them going through all that instead of just had somebody told them this is what to expect. And if it does happen, you want to continue doing the job, this is what you can do to help yourself.
Or stop telling them this is what you signed up for. You need to grow thicker skin. And pardon my language, but don't be a pussy. We don't cry about that. Right. If you can't handle it, then you don't need to be here. These are all, like, I've heard and personally witnessed all of those, and they are all the wrong answer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My second question is, do you have any questions for me?
No, I'm sure I will as you guys start branching out. Like my biggest one was, I want to get involved. I want to help support. I really, really, really believe in it. So I'll just keep an eye on what you guys have going, and any way I can help or contribute is definitely what I want to do. And I've got a couple friends, also Ethan's friends, that I work with, that they want to volunteer as well. So you've kind of got a little mini crew here in Colorado.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's do this after the show, maybe tomorrow or at some point next week when I find some time after training.
Right, after your cool class.
Yeah. Let's sit down and see if maybe we can create some type of fundraiser or something, if you have venues and stuff there and everything else. Now,
we do, and I've got all the contacts from when I still am active with the Colorado Firefighter Calendar, so we could even set up a booth at their tryout events and all the, I've got tons of connections that we can use. And I'm in the Springs, so where we have the Fallen Firefighter Memorial, a lot of those restaurants, I know the owners.
Oh, okay.
So we can do a lot. I've got tons of connections and contacts for you.
Awesome. And you might be the person that I have head that up. So
we can totally set that up.
Yeah.
So that was my biggest question for you, is there's a few of us here. We're like, hey, we're not in Texas, but we want to get involved. Use us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We will definitely talk more about that. And thank you. My last question to you is, we're on What Makes Us Fire. And obviously, I'm a firefighter, and you and I both are firefighters. So the conversation was very fire forward, but it's really for civil service members in general. And we are mental health forward because this is a topic of conversation that's too often not being talked about. So when I have people on the show, I'd like to ask them, what makes us fire is not necessarily we're telling people what makes us firefighters, or we're telling people what makes us civil service. It's more of a question.
Right.
What is it that you think it is within the individuals that are in civil service that allows them to continue to make those sacrifices, that even decided to make those sacrifices of doing the job to begin with?
Oh, I think, I was having a discussion with somebody the other day about this. I think it would be interesting if we did, a scientific study on how our brains actually react and think, because I do think that we are different on an electrical, brainwave level. I think we are wired and built differently than everybody else. That being said, that difference means that no matter what color our uniforms are, what our badge says, what our name tape says, what rank is on our collar, that makes us all family. So it doesn't matter what color stripe you have on the flag, whether it's blue, red, green, white, gold, what makes us the same is we're all forged through the difficult things that we've seen. We talk about what makes us fire because that's what we're forged in. the tough times, the hard times, and the good times too, the family, the camaraderie. It makes us all unique, and it's like a really weird and awkward fraternity, sorority kind of thing that you're really glad to be in, but at the end of the day, you're like, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. And that's actually a very, very good answer. This first I've heard a lot of different answers. I've heard, it's a spiritual thing. It's we want to help people, and that all these, they're all true. They're all true to those individuals, and they're all true. But for me, it's like, okay, I get that. But you and I have different backgrounds. Me and my crew have way different backgrounds. We're different races, different religions, different political views, different sexual orientations, ideas about life, all of these things that make us completely unique individuals. But yet here's this one thing that we look at each other and say, you're my brother, you're my sister, let's go get it done. And where that idea came from and where that mentality and sentiment came from is still a little bit of an enigma to me. Because
I guess the geek in me would love to do brain scans on every civil servant, basically, whether it's military or fire or police. And I'm willing to bet if one could be funded or if one could be done, there's probably one tiny little marker in there, tiny little something that all of us have.
That probably shines really, really fucking bright. It's probably like that little. It's that part of the brain. It's part of that brain is where you're fucked up. Yeah, that part of the brain's very, very, very bright.
Or like Adam Sandler says, "My medulla oblongata." But honestly, when people are like, "What?" I hear this so many times from my partner. He looks at me and goes, "Why are you the way you are?" And I look at him and went, "Kettle black."
Right.
And
exactly.
he goes, "True." He's like, "True." And it's. If you look at everybody you work with, it doesn't matter how you were brought up, what your religion is, where you grew up, whether you had a mom, dad, two dads, two moms, none of that matters. The infinite difference is when the shit is hitting the fan, we are smiling and giggling instead of running away. That is the genetic marker right there.
Just need to find out where exactly that came from.
Whichever one that is, that's what we all have. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, that whole self-protection gene that you're supposed to have, we kind of don't have that. We'll look at it and be like, well, it's not that bad. Well, I can still live. Well, okay, maybe that's bad.
Right.
I mean, like our idea of what is safe is completely different from everybody else, but I think the one thing we all have in common is we are just built different, and one of these days they're going to figure it out. And like in the future, like what's Stormship Troopers, where you're sorted, like this is due to your scans, you're going to be a gunner, due to your scans, you're going to be medical. Like we're going to get there one day, and all of us would be in one big think tank, and they'd be like, all y'all going to go over here.
Yeah, most likely there's a little, like, you got to be a little bit fucking fucked up to do the job.
It's like the fire asylum. I love the fire asylum t-shirt that says, we're all inmates. Yep.
Absolutely.
100%.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for all your points of views.
Thank you for having me. I really
Thank you for opening it up. What Makes Us Fire? This is Lo. Lo, where can they find you on social media?
So I'm on TikTok and I'm on Facebook under Lauren Dowd Lane. I'm brave and I put my actual real name on there.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
You put your whole government name on there.
I did. It's kind of scary, but what's funny is, like I say, if you don't want to be honest about it, don't put it out there. So Everything you see on there is pretty honest. I'm a goober, but I'm a fun goober.
Yeah, I love it. I fucking love it. Go give her a follow. Go check her out on her social media. Become a part of the Lo family. Y'all have fun. Stay safe. Show some love and peace out in the world. You never know who's going to need it. You never know if you're going to be the one to make the difference. And being that difference feels really good. Be the change you want to see in the world without letting the world dictate how you see that change happen. Just be the best version of yourself. And I promise if you put that out there, things will get better. Much love.
Absolutely.
Peace.
Bye. Thank you.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, that was my friend Lo. I want to thank her again for coming on to the What Makes Us Fire podcast and sharing her story. Look, here's the thing. And if you guys didn't catch this, I really want you to go back and listen again. There was a point in time in her life
that she thought if she wasn't a firefighter, what else could she be? And it drove her to the point of taking the alcohol. That alcohol amplified the depression and the anxiety and the stress, and she ended up doing something she woefully regretted. But she learned from it. She learned not to allow that situation to define her. As a matter of fact, even though she was a little bit headstrong, she went and accepted the help. She realized that if she didn't want to get back to that point in time in her life, she needed to be open to the help. It's too often a lot of us will realize we need help, but think the way we need help is the way we need help. I think we need to open our eyes, our ears, and our hearts to maybe when help is offered to us, even though it might not look or seem like the kind of help we want, maybe it's the help we need. Lo accepted that. And because of it, she's strong as hell. She's a fighter. She's a warrior. She's a firefighter. Lo, thank you again for coming on the show. I really do appreciate you being here, and I can't wait to work with you in the future. If you find yourself in a crisis right now, you need some help getting off that ledge, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 100% free, anonymous, and confidential. Make the call. The number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, the number is 1-800-273-8255. If making that phone call just isn't right for you yet, that's okay. Check out the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline.org. There you'll find a multitude of resources for you to read, to learn from, to make sure you can get yourself away from that ledge. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline and National Suicide Prevention Lifeline.org are in no way, shape, or form sponsors of the What Makes Us Fire podcast or the nonprofit. These are just two avenues that we truly believe in and two avenues that we believe could help you. You know, family, I've had a lot going on the past few weeks, and I have found that there are some out there that just like to bitch. Even though the majority of people are having a good time, the majority of the people that support us are understanding of some blips and some actions, there are a few out there that like to open their mouths and cause issue when no issue needs to be caused. Though their concerns are valid to them, and their concerns could be valid to more, when the majority of people are accepting of who you are and where you're going and what you're building, and you're only getting flack from some that may have felt slighted because you're not listening to their idea, even though you heard their idea, that you're not listening to it because maybe that idea just doesn't work for you. Keep doing you. Keep doing what you believe in. Keep doing what is working. I'm not saying shy away or turn away all change. That would be ignorant. What I'm saying is, if what you're doing is working for more people than it is not working for, continue doing it for the ones that support you 100%. Continue doing it for yourself. Remember, being the best version of you is for you and not for anyone else. Even if they don't like you. Even if they do like you. You've got to be the best version of yourself for you first. Period. End of story. Much love to you guys. Have fun. Stay safe. Peace.